So hello everyone, we are going to finish August 2025 magazine of Vision, obviously, and let's start, right? So we are going to start with contents. So देखते हैं क्या क्या content है, and as usual, let's begin.
The Constitution, 130th Amendment, Bill 2025, 41.2, The Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act 2025, 61.3, National Sports Governance Act 2025, 8.1.4, Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions Bill 2025, 10.1.5, News and Shorts, 11.1, 5.1, Commercial, Prohibited Speeches Not Part of Fundamental Rights, SC. 11.1, 5.2, Rules for OCI Card tightened. 12.1, 5.3, Election to the Office of the Vice President of India. 13.1, 5.4, National Cooperative Development Corporation, NCDC. 13.2, International Relations. 15.2.1, Fair and Representative Global Order. 15.2.2, India's Strategy in Indian Ocean. 16.2.3, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, Centrality. 18.2.4, News in Shorts. 19.2, 4.1, India-Philippines Strategic Partnership. 19.2, 4.2, UN-India Global Capacity Building Initiative. 22, 4.3, Eurasian Economic Union. 22, 4.4, Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, INF, Treaty 21.2. 4.5, Armenia-Azerbaijan Peace Agreement, brokered by the United States. 21.2, 4.6, Alaska Summit. 22.2, 4.7, Asia-Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD. 22.2, 4.8, Areas in Conflict in News. 23.3, Economy. 25.3.1, Product Nation. 25.3.2, Regional Imbalances in India. 26.3.3, Internationalization of Rupee. 28.3, 3.1, De-dollarization. 33.4, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management, FRBM Act. 32.3.5, Blue Economy. 33.3.6, Mines and Minerals, Development and Regulation, Amendment Act, 2025. 36.3.7, Gig Workers. 37.3.8, Income Tax Act, 2025. 39.3.9, Environmental, Social and Governance, ESG. 43.10, Competition Commission of India. 41.3.11, Indian Ports Act, 2025. 43.3, 11.1, 10 Years of Sagamala Program. 45.3.12, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, PMGSY. 46.3.13, 100th Birth Anniversary of MS Swaminathan, 48.3.14, News in Shorts. 49.3, 14.1, Sovereign Credit Ratings.
Prelims के लिए important है ना?
14.2, Gift City-like Financial Centers. 49.3, 14.3, India's Retail Inflation. 53, 14.4, RBI's Free AI Vision for Financial Sector. 51.3, 14.5, Small Finance Bank Universal License. 51.3, 14.6, RBI tightens co-lending norms. 52.3, 14.7, Safety in the Civil Aviation Sector. 53.3, 14.8, Steel Scrap Recycling Policy, SSRP. 53.4, Security. 55.4.1, High-Powered Demography Mission. 55.4.2, Increased Private Sector Share in Defense Production. 56.4.3, Sudarshan Chakra Mission. 58.4.4, News in Shorts. 59.4, 4.1, Agni 5. 59.4, 4.2, Exercises in News. 65. Environment. 61 5.1. E-mobility. 61 5.2. India's resolution on wise use of wetlands. 63 5.3. Cloudbursts in Himalayan regions. 64 5.4. News in shorts. 65 5. 4.1. India's water management. 65 5. 4.2. Global Outlook Council on Water Investments _ 66 5. 4.3. Pollution Control Boards. 66 5. 4.4. UNDP Equator Initiative Award. 67 5. 4.5. Awaza Program of Action 2024 to 2034. APOA. 67 5. 4.6. Sundarbans Tiger Reserve. 67 5. 4.7. Matri Van Initiative. 68 5. 4.8. Ethylene Hydroelectric Project. 68 5. 4.9. Volcanic eruptions in news. 68 May 4th 10. Drake Passage. 69 6. Social issues. 76.1. Urban migration. 76.2. Adi Karmayogi Abhiyan. 72 6.3. News in shorts. 74 6. 3.1. Multidisciplinary education and research improvement in technical education. Merit. Scheme. 74 6. 3.2. Kerala becomes India's first 100% digitally literate state. 74 6. 3.3. Registrar General of India. RGI. 75 7. Science and Technology. 76 7.1. Space Program of India. 76 7.2. India's first commercial Earth observation EO satellite constellation. 78 7.3. News in shorts. 87 3.1. ISRO inaugurates Hope Analog mission in TSO Kar Valley, Ladakh. 87 3.2. ISRO's heaviest rocket lunar module launch vehicle, LMLV, to be ready by 2035. 87 3.3. EU AI Code of Practice on General Purpose GPAI. 81 7. 3.4. Brain Computer Interface, BCI. 81 7. 3.5. Annual FASTag passes. 82 7. 3.6. Maharashtra inks deal with IIT Madras startup Tutor Hyperloop PB Limited to build Hyperloop. 82 7. 3.7. Shrestha Initiative. 83 8. Culture. 84 8.1. Goswami Tulsidas. 84 8.2. 100 years of Kakori train action. 85 8.3. Gallantry Awards. 86 8.4. Commonwealth Games. 87 8.5. News in shorts. 88 8. 5.1. Vitalbhai Patel. 88 8. 5.2. National Film Awards 2023. 89 9. Ethics. 99.1. Trust in public institutions. 99.2. Ethics of stray dog management. 92.10. Schemes in news. 95.10.1. Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana. 95.10.2. Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. PAMUI. 95.11. Places in news.
Now we start.
97. Copyright by Vision IAS. All rights are reserved. No part of this document may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by
Moving forward.
the Constitution. 130th Amendment. Bill 2025. Why in the news? Union Home Minister introduced the Constitution. 130th Amendment Bill 2025 in the Lok Sabha. More on the news. Bill seeks to provide for removal of the Prime Minister, Chief Minister or any other minister in central and state governments, and the Union Territory, UT of Delhi, who is held in custody for 30 consecutive days for a serious criminal offense. The bills propose significant amendments to Articles 75, 164, and 239 AA of the Indian Constitution. The same provisions are extended to UT of Puducherry through the Government of Union Territories Amendment Bill 2025, empowering the President to act similarly. The Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill 2025 also applies the same provisions to Jammu Kashmir, allowing the LG to remove the CM ministers. All to the Joint Parliamentary Committee, JPC, for detailed examination and discussion. 3 bills have been referred. Key provisions of Constitution Amendment Bill 2025. Grounds for removal. A union minister, chief minister, CM, or state minister will be removed from office if they are arrested and detained in custody for 30 consecutive days for an offence punishable with 5 or more years of imprisonment. O. This also applies to the Prime Minister. Procedure for removal. O. For union ministers, excluding PM. The President must remove the minister on the Prime Minister's advice to be tendered by the 31st day of detention. If no advice is given, the minister will automatically cease to hold office from the 31st day. O. For state ministers, excluding CM. A similar provision applies with the governor acting on the advice of the chief minister. If the CM does not advise by the 31st day, the minister automatically loses office. O. For Delhi ministers, excluding CM. The President removes the minister on the advice of Delhi's chief minister. If no advice is tendered, the minister automatically ceases to hold office. O. For Prime Minister or Chief Ministers, Union/State/Delhi. The Prime Minister or Chief Minister must tender their resignation by the 31st consecutive day of custody. If they fail to resign, they will automatically cease to hold office from the day thereafter. No bar on reappointment. Reappointment of a minister, prime minister, or chief minister is allowed after their release from custody. Arguments in favor of bills. Constitutional Morality and Ethical Governance, SC in Manoj Narula v. Union of India, 2014, had indicated that morality is intrinsic to constitutional framework, urging against appointing persons with serious criminal charges as ministers. Protecting public trust. This measure is seen as a strong stance against corruption and the criminalization of politics, potentially enhancing public trust in institutions. Good governance. It seeks to eliminate anomaly of governance from jail, aligning executive functions with accountability and addressing constitutional gaps in accountability. Bridging legal gap. The existing Representation of People Act, RP Act, disqualifies elected representatives only after conviction. This bill addresses the interim period of arrest and detention, bridging a crucial legal gap. Fairness with other employees. Ordinary government employees face suspension after 48 hours in custody. Similar standards should apply to ministers. Other. Uniform party application, advances political decriminalization, balancing frivolous arrests and judicial scrutiny, etc. Arguments against the bills. Political weaponization and threat to federalism. Central agencies like the ED and CBI could be misused to arrest leaders on flimsy charges, providing a legal shortcut to destabilize governments without electoral contest. Presumption of innocence at stake. The bill is against the principle of innocent until proven guilty, and natural justice by triggering removal based on detention alone, without conviction or even the framing of charges. The SC in Lily Thomas v. Union of India held that disqualification begins only upon conviction, not arrest or detention. Inconsistency in treatment. There is an inconsistency between legislators and ministers. While members of parliament, MPs and state legislatures, MLAs, are disqualified only upon conviction under the RP Act, 1951. Ministers under this bill could be forced to resign on mere detention. This creates a paradox where a convicted legislator might continue as a minister longer than an arrested minister. Revolving door. Problem. The provision allowing reappointment after release from custody could lead to cycles of resignation and reinstatement, causing political instability and potentially incentivizing tactical legal maneuvers. Executive discretion and politicization. The dual mechanism of removal, PM/CM's advice or automatic cessation, could politicize the process, allowing a prime minister to protect allies or remove a hostile chief minister to target rivals. Lack of safeguards, no provision for compensation if the arrest is found to be malicious. It can encourage misuse of preventive detention and laws like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, 1967, UAPA, and Prevention of Money Laundering Act, 2002, PMLA. E.g., of the 5,000 cases registered by ED in past 5 years, there were less than 10% convictions. Existing legal framework and judgments for disqualification after crimes, Representation of the People Act, 1951, RPA. Under Section 8(3) of the RPA, legislators are disqualified from contesting elections or continuing in office upon conviction for certain criminal offences with imprisonment of 2 years or more. Lily Thomas, 2013. Judgment. SC struck down Section 8(4) of the RPA, which had allowed sitting members to avoid disqualification if an appeal was filed against their conviction. Manoj Narula vs. Union of India, 2014. Court noted no legal bar against appointing ministers with criminal backgrounds, but stated that PM should consider avoiding individuals with criminal antecedents, especially for serious offences. PIL of Public Interest Foundation, 2018. Courts cannot add new disqualification grounds beyond laws. Recommended Parliament should enact laws requiring political parties to revoke membership and deny tickets to serious criminals. Election Commission of India. In 2016, it recommended amending the RPA to bar persons against whom charges are framed by court for an offence punishable with at least 5 years imprisonment from contesting elections. Way forward, interim suspension. Rather than outright removal, law could provide for interim suspension of ministerial functions during ongoing trials, allowing governance to continue without compromising accountability. Strengthening political parties' role. Political parties must instill self-discipline and commit to not fielding candidates with criminal records, focusing on integrity rather than mere winnability. Law Commission. Recommendations. Recommended that the framing of a charge for offences punishable by up to 5 years imprisonment should be made an additional ground for disqualification. This would filter out frivolous or politically motivated arrests by ensuring initial judicial scrutiny. Making bail a rule. It is suggested to make bail a rule except in heinous violent crimes so that new provisions regarding removal have wider acceptability. Fast-tracking criminal cases. Instead of disqualifying ministers merely based on arrest, the focus should shift to fast-tracking serious criminal cases against ministers, ensuring impartial investigations and swifter trials. Establishing an independent review mechanism. Like a tribunal or a judicial panel, could examine whether conditions for removal have been met, preventing executive overreach and ensuring impartial application. 1.2. The Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act, 2025. Why in the news? The Parliament has passed the Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act, 2025, effectively banning online money games while promoting and regulating other kinds of online games. Article 117. Special provisions as to financial bills. Article 117(1) covers matters, in addition to other legislative provisions, related to Article 110, Money Bill, which requires President's recommendation and can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. More on the news. Article 117(3) states, Act aims to establish a robust legal framework and regulate, promote and encourage the online gaming sector for innovation and economic growth, and ensure a developed, safe and responsible digital environment for all citizens. It was introduced in the House as a finance bill under Article 117(1) and 117(3) of the Constitution of India, with the due recommendation of the President, involving expenditure from Consolidated Fund of India shall not be passed by either House of Parliament unless the President has recommended to that House the consideration of the bill. That a bill. Why was the Act needed? Addiction and financial ruin. Online money games encourage compulsive playing and create an illusion of quick profits. This leads to addiction, pushing families into debt and distress. According to Union Minister for Electronics and Information Technology, online money gaming has negatively affected 45 crore people who faced a loss of more than Rs 20,000 crores. Mental health. World Health Organization classifies gaming disorder as a health condition in its International Classification of Diseases. Gaming disorder is a pattern of play marked by loss of control, neglect of other daily activities, and persistence despite harmful consequences. Closing legal loopholes. Gambling and betting are already restricted under laws such as the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 and by various state legislations. But the online domain remained largely unregulated. Many gaming platforms operate from offshore jurisdictions, presented challenges in terms of extraterritorial jurisdiction and interstate inconsistencies. Threat to national security. Investigations have shown that some gaming platforms were being used for terror financing, illegal messaging, and money laundering, effectively compromising the country's security. Encouraging esports. The Act promotes positive digital engagement and boosts creative economy and innovation in the esports sector. Key provisions of the Act. Key definitions. Online games. Any game which is played on an electronic or a digital device and is managed and operated as a software through the internet or any other kind of technology facilitating electronic communication. Categorization of the online games. OE Sport. Competitive digital sports where teams or individuals participate in organized tournaments requiring strategy, coordination, and advanced decision-making skills. E.g., Ved Beelzeboy Bam became the first Indian player to win the Pokemon Go World Championship 2025. Online social games. Games that form part of everyday recreation, primarily skill-based and designed for entertainment, learning, or social interaction. E.g., Wordle online word game, Kahoot, etc. Online money games. Online games, whether based on chance, skill, or both, where financial stakes are involved. Financial stakes include paying fees or depositing money for playing in expectation of winning linked to monetary or other gains. E.g., Dream 11, Rummy, Poker, Winzo, etc. Applicability. It will apply to the whole of India and to online money gaming service offered within the territory of India or operated from outside the territory of India. Absolute prohibition of online money games. Online money games, also called real money games and related services, to be prohibited. Further, advertisements and financial transactions by banks or financial institutions towards payment for any online money gaming service are also prohibited. Authorities have also been empowered to block access to unlawful platforms under the Information Technology Act 2000. Promotion of esports, recognized as a legitimate competitive sport. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports will develop guidelines, and infrastructure like training academies and research centers will be established. Promotion of social and educational games. Union government empowered to recognize and register social games that are safe and age-appropriate with dedicated platforms for content distribution. Online Gaming Authority. Establishment of a national-level regulatory authority to categorize and register games, determine if a game is a money game, and address grievances. Offenses and penalties. Offenses under key provisions are cognizable and non-bailable. Imprisonment of up to 3 years and a fine of up to 1 crore rupees for offering online money games. Advertising such games shall attract imprisonment up to 2 years and a fine of up to 50 lakh rupees. Corporate and institutional liability. Companies and their officers can be held accountable with specific safeguards for independent and non-executive directors who act with due diligence. Investigation and enforcement powers. Central government can authorize officers for investigation, search and seizure, including arrests without a warrant in certain cases. Other notable initiatives to counter the risks of online gaming. Section 69A of Information Technology Act 2000 empowers the government to block access to illegal websites or links, e.g., 1,524 betting and gambling websites and mobile apps were blocked during 2022 to 25. IT, Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code. Rules 2021 provide norms for online gaming platforms, e.g., registration of intermediaries with self-regulatory bodies, SRBs. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, Section 111 and 112 penalize unlawful economic activities and cybercrimes, and unauthorized betting and gambling respectively. Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act 2017, IGST Act. Illegal and offshore gaming platforms are regulated under the IGST Act. Consumer Protection Act 2019. prohibits misleading and surrogate advertisements. The Central Consumer Protection Authority, CCPA, has issued advisories to prevent celebrities and influencers from endorsing betting platforms. While the Act offers several advantages in terms of promoting esports and safeguarding citizens in the digital era, it also raises concerns about policy volatility and uncertainty. The abrupt ban on the rapidly growing online money gaming sector risks creating a perception of policy inconsistency. It can undermine industry and investor confidence, particularly affecting the inflow of foreign investment into India. Conclusion. The Promotion and Regulation of Online Gaming Act 2025 represents a significant milestone in shaping India's digital landscape. It seeks to safeguard citizens from the exploitative practices of the online money gaming industry, while simultaneously encouraging the growth of legitimate esports and social gaming. In doing so, it aims to strengthen the country's creative economy, foster innovation, and above all, ensure that technology becomes a tool for societal good rather than harm. 1.3 National Sports Governance Act 2025. Why in the news? Recently, the National Sports Governance Bill 2025 was given assent by the President. Sports governance in India. Sports regulation falls within the jurisdiction of the states as per entry 33 of the state list of the 7th schedule. Existing policies include the National Sports Policy, NSP, 1984, revised 2001, and the Sports Broadcasting Signals, Mandatory Sharing Prasar Bharati Act, 2007. More recently, the Cabinet approved the NSP 2025, superseding the 2001 policy. It is structured around 5 core pillars, focusing on global excellence, economic and social development through sports, making sports a people movement, and integrating sports with education. Key highlights of the Act: national sports bodies, provide for establishing the National Olympic Committee, National Paralympic Committee, and national and regional sports federations for each designated sport. These bodies will be affiliated with respective international bodies and will have affiliated units at the state and district
Regulatory
levels.
bodies include Ministry of Youth Affairs,
These bodies
Sports,
will be governed by
Sports
international
Authority of
charters
India,
and statutes.
Indian Olympic Association, and National
National
Sports
Sports
Federation.
Board, NSP.
Okay.
It will grant recognition to sports bodies and register their affiliate unit. Only recognized bodies will receive funds from the central government. National sports body must formulate a code of ethics for its stakeholders, setting minimum standards for ethical and appropriate conduct. A recognized organization shall be considered a public authority under the RTI Act 2005. The central government will decide its composition and appoint members on the recommendations of Search Cum Selection Committee. To be appointed to NSB, a person must have special knowledge or experience in public administration, sports, governance, sports law, and other related fields. National Sports Tribunal, to adjudicate sports-related disputes.
अभी important RTI
It
Act
will
के
not
अंदर
have
आएगा,
jurisdiction
ठीक है?
over specified disputes, such as those in relation to games organized by international bodies and internal disputes of national sports bodies. Oversight of elections. The central government will establish a national panel of electoral officers to oversee elections of national sports bodies. Every national sports body must also constitute an electoral panel to oversee elections of its affiliates. Powers of the central government. The central government may exempt a national body or its affiliates from any provision of act, if necessary in the public interest for promotion of that sport. Need for a comprehensive sports law in India. Absence of a comprehensive and uniform sports law, leading to inconsistent and often outdated regulations, or the National Sports Development Bill 2013 was not enacted. Politician domination in NSFs. Politicians with minimal sports expertise often occupy key positions in NSFs. Earlier, FIFA suspended All India Football Federation, AIFF, due to undue influence from third parties. Overlapping roles and responsibilities of key organizations like the SAI, the IOA, and NSFs create confusion and delays. Inadequate funding and utilization. Less than 40% of the allocated budget for 2022 to 2023 was utilized for athlete development.
This is an important point.
Ineffective policy implementation. The National Sports Policy, 1984, revised 2001, has not been successfully put into practice. Olympics, 2036.
Important point, allocated
Preparation. The legislation supports India's bid for the 2036 Olympics by ensuring compliance with the Olympic Charter and global best practices. Conclusion. The National Sports Governance Act 2025 aims to create a transparent, accountable, and athlete-centric sports ecosystem, aligning with global best practices and ensuring robust oversight for sustained excellence in Indian sports. Related news, National Anti-Doping Amendment Bill 2025 was also given assent by the President, seeks to amend the National Anti-Doping Act 2022. Key highlights of the Act. Aim it prohibits doping in sports and provides a framework for testing, enforcement, and adjudication of violations. It gives effect to the UNESCO Convention Against Doping in Sports. It establishes a National Anti-Doping Agency, NADA, to implement anti-doping rules. O National Board for Anti-Doping in Sports, to oversee activities of NADA and advise the central government on anti-doping regulations. Changes made from the earlier Act. O. Appeal Panel. The power to constitute the Appeal Panel, AP, and prescribe appeal procedures has shifted from the National Board to the central government. O. Autonomy of anti-doping bodies. Any member of NADA will have operational independence in line with WADA norms and UNESCO standards. O. Specified bodies can appeal to CAS. Earlier, any person could file an appeal before the Court of Arbitration of Sports, IAS, in Switzerland. O. Mandatory accreditation of testing labs. From WADA, unlike the earlier voluntary provision or anti-doping rule violations, it adopts the World Anti-Doping Code's definitions and schedules, giving them the force of law in India. 1.4 Jan Vishwas, Amendment of Provisions Bill, 2025. Why in the news? Recently, the Jan Vishwas, Amendment of Provisions Bill, 2025 was introduced in Lok Sabha to amend certain enactments to decriminalize and rationalize offences to further enhance trust-based governance for ease of living and doing business. More on the news. The bill builds on the success of the Jan Vishwas Act 2023, which had decriminalized 183 provisions in 42 central acts administered by 19 ministries and departments. The 2025 bill expands these reforms, addressing 16 central acts administered by 10 ministries' departments. The bill exemplifies process reforms by replacing rigid, punitive compliances with rationalized, trust-based mechanisms to streamline procedures, reduce judicial burden, and create an enabling environment for citizens and businesses alike. Key features of the bill. First-time contraventions. For 76 offences under 10 different acts, the bill provides that first-time violations will attract only an advisory or warning instead of punishment. Decriminalization of minor offences. Removes imprisonment clauses with monetary penalties or warnings for minor, technical, and procedural defaults. E.g., some acts like the Tea Act, 1953, Legal Metrology Act, 2009, already amended in 2023, are further decriminalized. Rationalization of penalties. Fines are rationalized and made proportionate with incremental penalties for repeat offences. Adjudication mechanism. Designates officers with the authority to impose penalties through administrative processes to ensure quicker resolution of cases and reduce the burden on the judiciary. Automatic revision of fines. Provides for an automatic increase of 10% in fines and penalties every 3 years, which ensures that penalties remain effective as a deterrent without the need for frequent legislative amendments. What are process reforms? Process reforms are described as nuts and bolts reforms that involve changing specific rules or procedures, such as altering a subsection of a rule. O. Unlike structural reforms, for example, GST, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, Monetary Policy Committee, which change the underlying architecture of an economic activity, process reforms improve the operation of a given structure.
पूरा नहीं change करता है, बस structure
They are
improve
micro
करता है.
level, targeted changes to improve operational efficiency in specific sectors or activities within public policy. Economic Survey 2020-21 also advocated the merits of simpler regulations and smoother processes as against over-regulation and opacity in Indian administrative and legal processes. Significance of process reforms. Sustaining economic growth. As the world's fastest growing economy, India needs ongoing reforms to maintain momentum. O. Process reforms fill the space between major structural changes, keeping the wheels of progress turning. Ease of doing business, living, and science. These reforms directly remove day-to-day irritations for citizens, businesses, and researchers. E.g., new procurement rules for scientific institutions make it easier for scientists to work efficiently. Unblocking bottlenecks and delays. Many government processes in India have legacy inefficiencies due to old rules, cumbersome paperwork, unnecessary approvals, slow delivery of services creating barriers for citizens and businesses. Enhancing sectoral competitiveness, e.g., liberalization of telecom rules for other service providers, OSP, fueled a boom in IT-enabled and BPO sectors. Reducing corruption rent-seeking by making systems transparent and removing unnecessary steps, process. Reforms help reduce scope of corruption and arbitrary enforcement. Institutionalizing a problem-solving mindset. Systematic process reforms build a culture of continual problem-solving within government, making institutions agile and responsive rather than assuming systems are God-given. Case studies of successful process reforms. Direct benefit transfer, DBT. Digitizing subsidy and welfare payments directly to beneficiaries has cut leakages and duplication, saving huge resources and improving service delivery. Voluntary company liquidation. Earlier voluntary liquidation took over 4 years with multiple delays. Streamlining the advertisement process and clarifying that certain NOCs were not required have drastically cut it down in some cases, creating one of the fastest exit regimes globally. Rationalization of autonomous bodies. Closure or merger of many outdated or overlapping government institutions like All India Handloom Board, All India Handicrafts Board, and multiple film units into a single corporation. Government e-marketplace, GEM portal. Introduced to increase transparency and reduce procurement costs by 15 to 20% through an online platform. Legal and dispute resolution reforms. Focus on reducing delays and costs in courts, incorporating insolvency and bankruptcy code, IBC, and debt recovery mechanisms. Legal metrology amendments. Criminal penalties for many minor offences were decriminalized through the Jan Vishwas Act, 2023, to reduce rent-seeking and harassment. Conclusion. As India continues to evolve into a dynamic, innovation-driven economy, reforms like the Jan Vishwas Bill must be seen not as endpoints, but as milestones in a longer journey of governance transformation. By embracing technology, continuous simplification, and citizen-centric governance, these reforms can translate into a culture of responsiveness, transparency, and adaptability within institutions. 1.5. News in shorts. 1. 5.1. Commercial, prohibited speeches, not part of fundamental rights. SC. The court was hearing a case against social media comedians for abusing freedom of speech and expression by making insensitive jokes about persons with disabilities. Key judicial observations. Commercial prohibited speech not protected. Freedom of speech, Art 19(1)(a), does not cover commercial speech or prohibited speech. O. Hate speech, prohibited speech. Expressions that promote or incite enmity, hatred, or violence against a key group based on inherent characteristics such as religion, race, caste, or ethnicity. Or commercial speech, advertising and related forms of speech with economic intent. Accountability of influencers. Influencers with a large following must act responsibly. Penal action. Compensation. Suggested proportionate punitive measures under IT Rules and Cinematograph Act. Social media guidelines. Court asked government to draft comprehensive guidelines for regulating online content. SC judgment related to free speech, Amish Devgan v. Union of India, 2020. It differentiated between free speech and hate, prohibited speech, and emphasized the responsibility of influencers with wide reach. Shreya Singhal v. Union of India, 2015. SC held that legitimate online expression cannot be curtailed in the absence of imminent harm. 1. 5.2. Rules for OCI card tightened. Union Ministry of Home Affairs has issued the notification under Section 7D of the Citizenship Act, 1955. Key highlights of the notification: OCI, Overseas Citizens of India, registration can be revoked if O, an individual is sentenced to at least 2 years in prison, or O, if a charge sheet is filed against them for an offence carrying a sentence of 7 or more years of imprisonment. About OCI cards, introduced an amendment in the Citizenship Act, 1955. O, in 2005 through in 2015, person of Indian origin, PIO card scheme, was merged with OCI, and all PIO cardholders were deemed to be OCI cardholders. OCI is not to be misconstrued as dual citizenship. It does not confer political rights. Ground for cancellation of OCI registration: registration obtained by fraud. OCI shows shown disaffection towards the Constitution of India. It is necessary to do so in the interest of the sovereignty and integrity of India, the security of India, friendly relations of India with any foreign country, or in the interests of the general public, etc. Benefits for OCI cardholders: O, multiple entries, multi-purpose, lifelong visa for visiting India, exempted from registration with foreign regional registration officer or foreign registration officer for any length of stay in India. O, entitled to general parity with non-resident Indians in respect of all facilities available to them in economic, financial, and educational fields, except in matters relating to the acquisition of agricultural or plantation properties. 1. 5.3. Election to the office of the Vice President of India. The Election Commission of India, ECI, had announced the election date for the 17th Vice Presidential election. Constitutional provisions
Currently,
related to
CP
Vice
Radha-
President. Term vacancy. As per Article 67, the Vice President serves for 5 years.
Election has
Article
already been done.
68(2) mandates a prompt election in
As
case
you
of
know,
vacancy.
CP
Electoral
Radhakrishnan
College
has been
comprises
elected.
members of both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, elected nominated. O, present strength, 782 MPs. Voting system, proportional representation, by single transferable vote and secret ballot, Article 66(1). Authority, Election Commission of India, ECI, under Article 324, and through powers under Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act, 1952. Election procedure of Vice President. Nomination requires 20 proposers and 20 seconders. Rs 15,000 deposit is mandatory. Voting conducted in Parliament House using special ECI supplied pens. First preference vote is compulsory. Supervision. ECI appoints the returning officer, Secretary General, Rajya Sabha, and observers. Key safeguards followed in elections: no party whip allowed. Violation of secrecy or use of unauthorized pen invalidates the vote. Bribery or undue influence is grounds for election challenge under the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act, 1952. 1. 5.4. National Cooperative Development Corporation, NCDC. The Union Cabinet has approved the Central Sector Scheme, Grant in Aid to National Cooperative Development Corporation, NCDC. About the grant in aid to NCDC. O. The scheme has an outlay of Rs. 2,000 crore for a period of 4 years, 2025 to 2029, with an allocation of Rs. 500 crore each year. O. The NCDC will serve as the executive agency for the scheme, handling fund disbursement, project monitoring, and loan recovery. Grant in aid are payments in the nature of assistance, donations or contributions made by one government to another government. O. They are guided by Article 275, statutory grants, and Article 282, discretionary grants of the Constitution. Conclusion. This scheme funds modernization and new projects, benefiting millions of farmers by improving their economic conditions, creating widespread employment, and strengthening India's vital cooperative sector. Note: for more information on cooperatives in India, refer to Article 1.3, National Cooperative Policy, 2025 of July 2025, Vision IAS Monthly Current Affairs Magazine. 2. International
Let's go to
Relations.
international relations.
2.1. Fair and Representative Global Order. Why in the news? India's External Affairs Minister called for a fair and representative global order at the first BIMSTEC Traditional Music Festival. Why global order is not fair and representative? Unequal representation in global institutions, e.g., the P5 countries, China, France, Russia, UK, and US, hold permanent status and veto powers, disproportionately influencing United Nations Security Council, UNSC, decisions, and sidelining non-permanent members. Marginalization of the Global South, Global North, industrialized countries has 9 times more voting power at the IMF than the Global South, developing or underdeveloped countries. OEG, United States has 16.49% of the votes on the IMF's board, despite representing only 4.22% of the world population. Ineffective multilateralism. Powerful nations bypass multilateral forums, undermining truly global cooperation, leading to fragmented and interest-driven global responses. OEG, United States is set to officially withdraw from Paris Climate Agreement and World Health Organization, WHO. Trade as instrument of geopolitical power. E.g., United States 25 tariff on goods imported from India, EU's carbon
अभी
tax,
50 हो चुका
etc.
है.
highlight the asymmetry in trade relationships. Climate change. Inequities. Industrialized countries like United States account for 20% of all historical emissions, and the consequences disproportionately affect countries in Global South. OEG, in 2024, the Philippines faced an extreme heat wave causing drought and heat-related deaths. Technology and knowledge divide. E.g., 100 companies, mostly in the United States and China, are behind 40 of world's private investment in research and development, highlighting a sharp concentration of power. Technology and Innovation Report 2025. Way forward for a fair representative global order. Multilateral reforms, e.g. G4. Ministers representing Brazil, Germany, India, and Japan support each other's bids for permanent seats on the United Nations Security Council, UNSC. Decolonizing multilateralism. Initiatives such as Voice of the Global South Summit exemplify India's potential as a champion for a more equitable world order. Implement Rio de Janeiro Declaration. Adopted in the 17th BRICS Summit, it advocates for inclusive AI governance and realignment of IMF quotas to better reflect current global realities and sovereign interests. Bridging the digital technology divide. Promote open source, inclusive digital public infrastructure. OEG, India's model of digital public infrastructure, DPI, was held up as a blueprint for the Global South. Climate justice. Strengthen frameworks like Common but Differentiated Responsibilities, CBDR, updating them to meet contemporary economic and climate challenges. Conclusion. A fair global order needs inclusive institutions, equitable finance, and balanced North-South cooperation, with emerging powers like India bridging gaps for a just and effective world system. 2.2. India's strategy in Indian Ocean. Why in the news? Parliamentary Committee on External Affairs presented report on evaluation of India's Indian Ocean strategy in Lok Sabha. Why Indian Ocean matters? Hosts 1/3 of the world's population. Over 2/3 of the world's oil shipments transit through it. 90% of India's trade by volume, including nearly all oil imports, passes through the Indian Ocean. India has a 2.4 million SQ, KM Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ, in the Indian Ocean region, IOR. India's strategy in the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is 3rd largest oceanic division in the world. Strategic partnerships. India's approach to the IOR has been guided by Neighborhood First policy and SAGA, Security and Growth for All in the Region doctrine. O. In March 2025, India outlined Mahasaga, Mutual and Holistic Advancement for Security and Growth Across Regions doctrine, an extension of SEGA doctrine, Net Security Provider. India has established itself as the net security provider in the IOR. O. India actively engages in counter-piracy operations and cooperates with other nations to combat IUU fishing, maritime terrorism, and maritime criminal activities. India also conducts joint EEZ surveillance exercises and shares information through Information Fusion Center, IFC-IOR. O. Engagement with littoral states. India has fostered strong bilateral partnerships with IOR littoral states such as Mauritius, Maldives, Sri Lanka, and Seychelles. O. Developmental assistance, capacity building programs, HADAR support and defense and maritime, security cooperation are the core pillars of such partnerships. Regional leadership. India plays a key role in multilateral platforms in the IORA, including Indian Ocean Rim Association, Indian Ocean Commission, etc. Infrastructure and connectivity. India has been investing in the development of ports, such as Chabahar Port across the Indian Ocean, such as in Sri Lanka, Mauritius, and Seychelles, to enhance connectivity and strategic presence. O Sagarmala 2.0, India's flagship initiative to enhance port connectivity, develop inland waterways, and promote industrial growth to further enhance India's maritime competitiveness. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. India plays the role of a reliable first responder. For instance, in the wake of floods caused by Typhoon Yagi, India launched Operation Sadbhav and provided disaster relief material and medical supplies to Myanmar, Laos, and Vietnam. Important multilateral platforms in the IORA. Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA. India is a founding member of the 23-member IORA, a regional grouping aimed at strengthening economic cooperation, maritime safety, and environmental security. Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, IONS, launched in 2008 by India, it seeks to increase maritime cooperation among navies of the littoral states. Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, IPOI, announced by India in 2019, is an open, non-treaty-based global initiative that seeks to manage, conserve, sustain, and secure the maritime domain. Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, Quad. It addresses maritime security, safety, HADAR, environment protection, connectivity, strategic technologies, supply chain resilience, health, education, and cybersecurity, amongst others. Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, BIMSTEC. India is the lead country for the security pillar of BIMSTEC, which covers counter-terrorism and transnational crime, disaster management, and energy security. Indian Ocean Commission, IOC, a smaller organization, it focuses on economic environmental issues and maritime security. India is an observer state. Challenges and threats to the Indian strategy. Geopolitical. Increasing presence of extra-regional players with investments in ports and infrastructure. For example, strategic competition in Sri Lanka and Maldives with China, thereby expanding their strategic footprint and adversely impacting our security interests. Island states hedging between partners is a challenge in steady economic and security engagement. Maritime security. Region faces issues like piracy, terrorism, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, IUU fishing, drug trafficking, and smuggling. Infrastructure and connectivity gaps. Several IOR countries, including India's key partners like Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles, face infrastructural and financial limitations. Way forward. Tailored strategic engagement plan. India should formulate a comprehensive and flexible strategic engagement plan covering all 35 littoral states with key focus areas including maritime security, climate resilience, infrastructure development, defense cooperation, etc. Institutionalize strategy execution. Establish a dedicated inter-ministerial task force comprising key ministries to address existing institutional silos, streamline decision-making, and enable faster, better coordinated execution of India's interests in the region. Integrating Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific strategies. Develop a unified and coherent maritime strategy integrating Indian Ocean and Indo-Pacific policies, including strengthening cooperation through key multilateral platforms such as the Quad, IORA, and ASEAN. Green Mahasagar. Integrate environmental sustainability into India's regional strategy with focus on marine ecosystem protection, pollution reduction, disaster response, and promotion of the blue economy. Strengthen maritime strategy, enhancing India's maritime deterrence through advanced technologies, including satellite surveillance and AI-driven maritime domain awareness. Role of Indian Navy, improve fleet readiness, personnel training, logistics support, and accelerate the modernization of naval forces by prioritizing indigenous development under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. Enhancing India's cultural footprint, increase funding of Indian missions to undertake initiatives such as cultural centers, art performances, and heritage promotion. Conclusion. India's policy in the Indian Ocean region, IOR, is centered on maintaining security, fostering regional cooperation, and promoting strategic and economic interests with the objective of promoting greater prosperity in the region and of making the Indian Ocean a free, open, and inclusive space based on the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, UNCLOS 2.3. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, centrality. Why in the news? ASEAN centrality is under growing strain from great power rivalry, trade tensions, and a shifting order requiring bold reforms and deeper partnerships in Indo-Pacific region. About ASEAN. Genesis. Established in 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand, with the signing of the ASEAN Declaration, Bangkok Declaration. Aims: accelerate regional economic and cultural progress, promote peace, stability, and the rule of law, foster collaboration across education, trade, agriculture, and industry. Secretariat, Jakarta, Indonesia. Member countries, 10 countries, see map. Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand are founding members. ASEAN Summit. It is the highest policy-making body in ASEAN, comprising the heads of state or government
Cambodia,
of ASEAN member states.
Philippines,
Article
Singapore,
1.15
Indonesia,
of the
Malaysia,
ASEAN
and
Charter
Brunei,
emphasizes that the grouping's
10
primary
countries
goal
total
is to
है,
uphold the centrality and active role of ASEAN as the main driving force behind its relations and cooperation with external partners. Relevance of ASEAN centrality in the region, security and stability. Through forums like the ASEAN Regional Forum, ARF, and ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, ADMM Plus, ASEAN provides space for defense, maritime, and security dialogue involving both member and external powers. Economic, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership was ASEAN-led, strengthening regional trade links across Asia-Pacific. Integration, RCEP, norm building, e.g., Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, TAC, originally meant for Southeast Asian states, has evolved into a key regional framework, with major powers like China, US, and Russia also becoming signatories. Threats to ASEAN centrality, great power rivalry, US-China competition risks marginalizing ASEAN, fragmenting regional unity, for example, BRI versus Indo-Pacific strategy. US tariffs. The tariffs are destabilizing the international trade systems crucial for ASEAN economies. Overlapping regional architectures, new minilateral arrangements such as Quad and AUKUS, Australia, UK, and US, challenge ASEAN-led security mechanisms like the East Asia Summit, AADMM+, etc. Internal divisions, e.g., Vietnam put strong pressure on ASEAN members to confront China, whereas Cambodia, along with Laos, have also become increasingly dependent on Chinese infrastructure loans. Credibility crisis, e.g. On the Myanmar crisis, ASEAN has struggled to enforce its 5-point consensus, allowing external powers to step in the Indo-Pacific region. Weak institutional capacity. ASEAN Secretariat's limited resources curtail ambitious initiatives. Way forward to strengthen ASEAN centrality, upgrade. ASEAN's Community Vision 2045 and ASEAN Political Security Community Strategic Plan, ASEAN Economic Community AEC Strategic Plan 2026 to 2030 mark step in the right direction. Cooperate with like-minded partners, e.g., EU seeks free trade agreements, FTAs, with ASEAN and most of its members, is expanding its presence in the Indo-Pacific. Formal consultation mechanisms, with groupings like the Quad proposing joint initiatives on shared concerns and exploring ways to connect minilateral arrangements with ASEAN-led processes. Closer partnership with India. India shares ASEAN's interest in enhancing regional trade, increasing economic diversification, and promoting regional stability. How can India deal with shift of ASEAN centrality? Synchronize efforts, advancing cooperation between India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, IPOI, with ASEAN's AOIP, ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, on shared Indo-Pacific concerns, especially maritime security, disaster response, and blue economy opportunities. Explore potential synergies with sub-regional frameworks such as Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA, BIMSTEC, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand Growth Triangle, IMTGT, etc. Expedite review of ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, ITIGA, to make it more effective, user-friendly, simple, and trade facilitative for businesses. Implementation. The ASEAN-India Tourism Cooperation Work Plan, 2023 to 2027. To explore deeper cooperation to support joint programs for tourism education, training and research to build capacity. Conclusion. ASEAN has emerged as the premier organization in Southeast Asia. The key approach going forward is to reassert its centrality in Southeast Asian development and progress, in tandem with the commitment of respective member states to avoid being swayed by the strategic ambitions of external powers. 2.4 News in Shorts. 2. 4.1 India-Philippines Strategic Partnership. The Philippines and India formally elevated their bilateral ties through a declaration on establishing a strategic partnership, guided by the Plan of Action, 2025 to 2029. More on the news. The strategic partnership marks 75 years of diplomatic ties established in 1949, further strengthened by India's Look East 1992 and Act East 2014 policies. Convergence of India-Philippines relations, defense partnership, growing trust and defense cooperation exemplified by India's arms exports like $375 million BrahMos missile deal with Philippines, first foreign buyer. China factor. Increasing Chinese assertiveness in the South China Sea threatens Philippine sovereignty and also India's maritime trade routes, bringing both towards closer cooperation. Maritime security. India backs the Philippines' stance on the 2016 arbitration ruling, reinforcing a rules-based order under UNCLOS. India calls a rules-based order and freedom of navigation in the SCS region. Indo-Pacific vision. India's Act East policy and Indo-Pacific outreach have Philippines as a key player. Conclusion. India-Philippines relations are becoming more strategically deep through collaboration in cyber, economics, maritime, and defense. The partnership promotes a rules-based Indo-Pacific and enhances India's Act East policy. By working together, both countries can guarantee shared prosperity, stability, and security in the region. 2. 4.2 UN-India Global Capacity Building Initiative. India launched projects with the UN under Global Capacity Building Initiative for Asia, Africa, and Caribbean countries. About Global Capacity Building Initiative. Genesis. India and the United Nations jointly launched it in September 2023. Objective. Share India's development experiences, best practices, and expertise with Global South nations through capacity building and training programs for accelerating progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, implemented through the new UN-India SDG Country Fund, as well as the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, ITEC. 2. 4.3 Eurasian Economic Union. India and Eurasian Economic Union recently signed Terms of Reference for Trade Deal. Signing of Terms of Reference marks formal commencement of Free Trade Agreement (FTA) negotiations with the goal to establish a long-term framework for trade cooperation. The potential benefits of FTA with EAEU: economic benefits, trade expansion. It will unlock untapped trade potential, increase investments, and establish a stronger economic partnership. Bilateral trade turnover stood at USD 69, durable, India EAEU, billion in 2024, 7% rise from 2023. Market access. It will open wider opportunities for Indian exporters amid increasing US tariffs and support diversification into new sectors and geographies. Enhance competitiveness. It will strengthen India's position against non-market economies. It will significantly benefit Indian micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. Energy partnership. EAEU offers abundant natural resources and energy crucial
Russia,
for India's growth.
Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan,
E.g.,
Belarus,
Russia
and
now
Armenia.
accounts for 35 to 40% of India's total oil imports by volume. Strategic
ये पहले
benefits.
का अभी कम कर दिया है, ठीक
Strengthening
है?
ties with Russia-led bloc will reinforce India's policy of multi-alignment. About Eurasian Economic Union, EAEU. Overview. It is an international organization for regional economic integration. Genesis. Established by the Treaty on the Eurasian Economic Union, 2014. benefits, provides for free movement of goods, services, capital and labor, etc. etc. 2. 4.4. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty. Russia officially end commitment to 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF Treaty. Russia cited recent U.S. military actions as key reason, including the U.S. order of repositioning 2 nuclear submarines closer to Russian shores and deployment of Typhoon missile system in Philippines. About INF Treaty. Signed between the United States and the Soviet Union in 1987, the treaty required destruction of all ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles with ranges of 5,500 kilometers. It was the first major agreement to reduce nuclear arsenals, remove an entire class of weapons, and allow on-site inspections for verification. INF Treaty had already weakened after the US withdrew in 2019. Implications on nuclear arms control. Breakdown of arms control frameworks, eroding trust and hindering efforts towards future nuclear disarmament movements. Negative impact on nuclear disarmament. Major powers accelerating nuclear modernization, while non-nuclear states are reconsidering their non-proliferation commitments, heightening global instability. Return to Cold War politics. Collapse of treaty has stoked fears of a replay of Cold War-era European missile crisis, increasing security risk. Such weapons take less time to reach targets, raising the likelihood of a global nuclear conflict over a false launch warning. 2. 4.5. Armenia-Azerbaijan peace agreement brokered by the United States. The deal aims to bring an end to decades of conflict between the 2 South Caucasus countries. Key provisions of the deal. Cessation of hostilities. Both nations agreed to end armed conflict, establish diplomatic relations. Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Trip. New transit route linking Azerbaijan to its exclave Nakhchivan through Armenian territory. OUS has exclusive development rights. US cooperation deals. Both countries also signed separate agreements with the United States to enhance cooperation in energy, technology, and the economy. Background of the conflict. The Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict is mainly over Nagorno-Karabakh, a mountainous region inside Azerbaijan but predominantly populated by ethnic Armenians. 1980s. Nagorno-Karabakh broke away from Azerbaijan with Armenia's support. 1991. Both countries gained independence from the Soviet Union, but the dispute continued. 2023. Azerbaijan regained full control, causing nearly 100,000 Armenians to flee to Armenia. India's interest. India supports the peace deal, calling it an important achievement for dialogue and diplomacy. The deal is important for India as Armenia is the only country in the region with which it has a friendship and cooperation treaty, signed in 1995. Azerbaijan falls on the international north-south transport corridor route, connecting India with Russia through Central Asia. 2. 4.6. Alaska Summit. The President of USA and Russia met in Alaska regarding ceasefire in Russia-Ukraine war. About Alaska. OOO maritime boundaries. Beaufort Sea and Arctic Ocean, north. Gulf of Alaska and Pacific Ocean, south. It is a non-contiguous U.S. state on the northwest extremity of the North American continent. It was bought by the USA from Russia as per Alaska Treaty 1867. Bering Sea, west. Chukchi Sea, northwest. Nearly one-third of the state lies within the Arctic Circle, and about 85% of Alaska is underlain by permafrost. The northern lights or aurora borealis are visible across much of Alaska. 2. 4.7. Asia-Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD. India has been elected as the chairman of the executive board of AIBD at 23rd General Conference in Thailand. About Asia-Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, Genesis. Founded in 1977 under the auspices of UNESCO, AIBD is a unique regional intergovernmental organization. Secretariat, Kuala Lumpur. Mandate, to achieve a vibrant and cohesive electronic media environment in the Asia-Pacific region. Members, it currently has 92 member organizations from 45 countries. India is a founding member of AIBD, and Prasar Bharati, India's public service broadcaster, represents the Ministry of Information Broadcasting in the organization. 2. 4.8 Areas in conflict in news. Areas in conflict: Gaza, Khan Younis, Rafah, Jabalia, Deir al-Bala. Reason: UN officially declared famine in August 2025, with 500,000 people at risk of starvation due to Israel's prolonged blockade and restricted aid entry post-Hamas
Gaza.
attack on Israel. Key geographical features: small coastal strip along the eastern Mediterranean Sea. It borders Israel on the north and east, and Egypt on the southwest. With nearly 2.2 million people, it is among the most crowded places in the world. Map: Sudan, Darfur, Khartoum, South Kordofan, Blue
Rafah,
Nile
Khan
states.
Younis, Deir al-Bala,
Sudan plunged into a
Jabalia.
civil war in April 2023 after a vicious power struggle broke out between its army and a powerful paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Force, RSF. Located in Nile, northeast Africa, bordered by Egypt to the north, the Red Sea to the northeast, third largest country in Africa, the Nile River system, White Nile and Blue Nile, runs through Sudan, Ukraine, Kiev, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Cherkasy, and Chernihiv, and Kharkiv. Worsening humanitarian conditions in Ukraine
Yes.
amidst a wave of Russian missile and drone strikes. Bordered by Russia east and the Black Sea of Azov south, the Dnieper River flows through Kiev to the Black Sea. Carpathian mountains in the west and Crimean mountains in the south. Democratic Republic of Congo, North Kivu, Ituri province. Congo has been facing a long cycle of wars in the east, shaped by ethnic tension, weak governance, and the
DRC.
struggle for its mineral wealth. Located in Most Central Africa and the second largest on the continent. Congo River, basin 2 and longest river in Africa. Congo, rainforest, 2 and largest tropical rainforest, mineral-rich cobalt, copper and gold, etc. 3. Economy. 3.1 Product nation.
Okay.
Why in the news? In its recent report,
Let's
the
just stop
Standing
it.
Committee on Finance.
Okay. And we will continue in a while. You can drink some water, take a small break, and then continue it. I'm just pausing because you can pause your video and then you can continue. Okay, so let's continue.
Suggested ways for India to navigate rising global trade uncertainties
Economy, product nation
and
की बात
growing
हो रही है,
protectionism. More on the news. Conflicts like the Russia-Ukraine war and the West Asia crisis have disturbed energy markets and supply chains, making India's trade more vulnerable. Recently, the United States' move to impose a 50% tariff on Indian products has also underlined the same. Experts believe that this is India's opportunity to evolve from a service-oriented economy into a true product nation. Oh, this has also been signaled in the recent reforms like GST. What is a product nation? Definition: a product nation is a country that produces and exports a substantial volume of high-value goods, becoming a net producer rather than a net importer. Purpose: at its core, a product nation shifts from being only a consumer or assembler to becoming a creator of globally competitive goods, boosting both its economic strength and its strategic standing in the world. Smile curve insight. Stanshi's smile curve shows that higher value lies in R&D, design, branding, and distribution rather than pure manufacturing. E.g., Apple, $3 market cap versus Foxconn, $85 billion. Oh, this curve makes the case for investing in entire life cycle of a product rather than just assembly. E.g., Apple, $3 market cap versus Foxconn that assembles for Apple, $85 billion. South Korea, Japan, and several Southeast Asian nations have risen as manufacturing hubs over the last 3 decades. Challenges in becoming a product nation: innovation R&D gaps, lack of manufacturing, and high-tech lags. For instance, India spends 0.65% of its GDP on R&D,
Very low.
import dependence, heavy reliance on energy, fertilizers, metals, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and technology imports makes India vulnerable to supply disruptions. Oh, innovation. India imports 65 to 70% of its semiconductor needs.
This is very
No
important.
private investment. Despite reforms, private sector capital formation remains subdued. regulatory and policy,
Very, very important.
bottleneck,
Semiconductor 65 to
delays in
70%.
approvals, complex compliance,
Okay.
and a lack of ease in doing business affect growth. Structural constraints, weak infrastructure, and a shortage of skilled labor limit India's capacity to scale manufacturing rapidly. Make in India risks being reduced to assembly work rather than genuine value addition. Employment generation, mismatch between job creation and the growing young workforce, especially in manufacturing. Climate sustainability risks, exposure to climate change, impacts, energy transition challenges, and lack of green finance readiness. Coal generates more than 70% of India's total electricity. Way forward, strengthen manufacturing, scale up production, linked incentive, PLI, and incentivize indigenous innovation in electronics, semiconductors, and EVs, infrastructure connectivity. Push, invest in logistics parks, multimodal transport, and digital connectivity, and integrate MSMEs into global value chains through cluster-based development. For example, National Logistics Policy, 2022. Invest in human capital. Reform education and skill development to align with product-driven economy needs. AI, robotics, advanced manufacturing. For example, Skill India Gati Shakti initiatives as building blocks. Foster product development platforms. Create intelligent product platforms that startups and companies can use to accelerate development, like Atal incubation centers. Conclusion. By strengthening indigenous innovation and advanced manufacturing that integrates human creativity with intelligent technologies in line with the principles of Industry 5.0, human-centric, sustainable, and resilient industrial model, where advanced technologies such as AI, robotics, IoT, etc. work with humans rather than replacing them, India can reduce external vulnerabilities and enhance value capture. In an era of trade wars and geopolitical flux, this shift becomes vital for safeguarding the nation's geostrategic and economic autonomy. 3.2. Regional imbalances in India. Why in the news? The Standing Committee on Finance recommended Centre to come up with action plan to evenly distribute industries across states to reduce regional imbalances in India. More on the news. The Standing Committee on Finance, in its 26th report, Roadmap for Indian Economic Growth in Light of Global Economic and Geopolitical Circumstances, noted that industries is a state subject. However, it emphasized that the central government's initiatives are vital for industrial development. Economic Survey 2024-25 also highlighted significant disparities in industrial development across states. Regional imbalances refer to the differences in economic development and uneven economic growth in different geographical regions. Note, the Union list also has the following industries. Industries declared by Parliament by law to be necessary for defense or for the prosecution of war. Industries, the control of which by the Union is declared by Parliament by law to be expedient in the public interest. Reasons for regional imbalances in India. Historical factors. Regional imbalances started during the British regime, concentrating development in areas like West Bengal and Maharashtra. Geographical factors. Difficult terrain, for example Himalayan and northeastern states, raising administration and project costs. Political factors, e.g. relocation of Tata Nano project from West Bengal to Gujarat due to protests. Policy disparities. The Green Revolution benefited a few states like Punjab and Haryana, exacerbating imbalances. Lack of growth of ancillary industries. Despite developing public sector industrial enterprises in backwards areas like Rourkela, Baruni, Bhilai, etc. Location specific, e.g. development of commercial hubs, residential complexes in National Capital Region, Gurugram, Noida, due to proximity to the capital Delhi. Infrastructure, deficit, poor transportation, banking services, etc. Limits growth, e.g. industrial growth is low in northeastern states due to poor road, rail connectivity, weak banking penetration, and power shortages. Consequences of regional imbalances in India. Security, e.g. insurgency in northeast and left-wing extremism in large parts of central and eastern
Eastern
states.
states. Left-wing
Political
extremism.
fragmentation,
Big problem.
e.g., creation of Telangana state and demand for separate Vidarbha state in Maharashtra, Bodoland in Assam, etc. Economic. O national growth. Regional imbalance slows the growth of the entire national economy. O economic gap. Difference in per capita income. For example, Rs 204 605 in Karnataka and Rs 70,434 in Madhya Pradesh. O reinforcing imbalances. Prosperous areas attract more investments. For example, cities like Chennai and Bangalore grow faster than others. Environmental. Concentrated industrial development causes air, water, and noise pollution. For example, pollution in Delhi. Social. Frustration among youth and vulnerable sections like SC, ST, OBCs, women, etc. Disparity in human development. According to the UNDP, in Human Development Index, Goa occupies the top spot, with Bihar scoring the lowest. Health inadequacy. One doctor serves a population of 28,391 in Bihar, whereas in Delhi, one doctor serves 2,203, both greater than the WHO standard of 1,000. Other, housing water problem in metropolitan cities like Mumbai, New Delhi, Chennai, and Hyderabad. Way forward, promoting new financial institutions in backwards regions. The government can see that these institutions function well for all-around development of the backward areas. New regional boards. Regional boards with necessary legal powers. Funds can be instituted to remove regional imbalances. Growth corridors, comprising education zones, agricultural zones, and industrial zones, should be operationalized for the rapid development of backward areas in the states. Performance-based funding. A system may be introduced to reward states, including developed ones, that significantly reduce inequalities within their borders. Additional funds for infrastructure. Additional funds need to be provided to build core infrastructure at the inter-district level in less developed states and backward regions. Strengthening of good and local governance in backward states. Effective administration helps states raise revenues, attract investment, and improve resource use, especially in backwards regions. Other, deregulation, R&D and innovation, and improving skill levels of the workforce. Conclusion. For removing regional imbalances, focus should be on creating an environment that fosters innovation, attracts investment, and ensures efficient utilization of resources. Strengthening governance, improving infrastructure, and promoting healthy competition between states through cooperative and competitive federalism are essential for balanced development. 3.3. Internationalization of rupee. Why in the news? RBI removes prior approval requirements for banks to open special rupee Vostro accounts, SRVAs, speeding up rupee-based trade settlements and supporting the internationalization of the Indian rupee. More on the news. Special rupee Vostro account, SRVA mechanism was introduced in July 2022 to enable exporters and importers to invoice and, that is, settle internationalization of Indian rupee. Trade in the Indian rupees. Vostro account refers to a foreign bank's account held in a domestic bank in the local currency. OEG, if a US bank holds an account in an Indian bank in rupees, it is SBI's Vostro account. How it works? O for importers. When an Indian importer pays a foreign trader in rupees, the amount is credited to the Vostro account. O for exporters. When an Indian exporter receives payment, money is deducted from the Vostro account and credited to the exporter's regular account. What is It
is important to note here that apart from Vostro account, there is also a thing called Nostro account. So Nostro account is just the opposite of Vostro account. Vostro account में फॉरेन बैंक का अकाउंट होता है हमारे डोमेस्टिक बैंक में. फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस का या फिर जर्मनी का बैंक का अकाउंट है एसबीआई के एक वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट में. तो वो वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट अगर वो एसबीआई में जमा करा रहा है अकाउंट अपना जर्मनी या फिर यूएस तो वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट में कराएगा. लेकिन अगर इंडिया किसी फॉरेन बैंक में कराता है तो वहाँ के वॉस्ट्रो में कराएगा जो कि यहाँ के लिए नॉस्ट्रो कहलाता है. राइट. So refers to domestic bank's account held in foreign bank in currency of overseas. If Indian bank SBI holds an account in US bank Citibank in US dollar, it is in the currency of overseas country. अच्छा, इसमें एक चीज़ और है कि जो वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है वो फॉरेन बैंक, फॉर एग्जांपल यूएस के बैंक सिटी बैंक ने फॉर एग्जांपल एसबीआई में पैसा जमा कराया और वो रुपीज़ में कराया, तब वो वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट होता है. ट्रांजैक्शन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है यहाँ पे, ये वाली बात समझनी है कि यूएस डॉलर में नहीं जमा कराएगा, वो अगर जमा करा रहा है तो वो भी आपकी लोकल करेंसी में जमा करा रहा है, और हम जब जमा करा रहे हैं तो हम यूएस डॉलर में जमा करा रहे हैं, तब वो जाके नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट कहलाता है, और वो एसबीआई का नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट कहलाता है. मतलब वो वहाँ के लिए वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है. सो बेसिकली नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट सिंप्लीफाई द प्रोसेस ऑफ एक्सचेंजिंग एंड ट्रेडिंग इन फॉरेन करेंसीज. सो बेसिकली अब यहाँ पे एक चीज़ और समझो कि जो यहाँ का एसबीआई का नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है, वो इस एग्जाम्पल में जिसमें इंडियन बैंक एसबीआई होल्ड्स एन अकाउंट इन द यूएस सिटी बैंक, वहाँ सिटी बैंक के लिए वो एक वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है ना. मतलब इंडिया के लिए जो नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है, मतलब इंडिया ने डॉलर में जमा कराया उनके बैंक में, वो क्योंकि उनके लोकल करेंसी में जमा हो रहा है, तो वो उनके लिए वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट है. वॉस्ट्रो मीन्स खुद का, मतलब खुद की करेंसी में अगर बात की जाए, सेल्फ करेंसी में अगर बात की जाती है तो वॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट होता है, और अगर फॉरेन करेंसी में जमा करा रहे हैं तो सिटी बैंक, मतलब सॉरी, ये आपका नॉस्ट्रो अकाउंट होता है. ठीक है, नाउ मूविंग फॉरवर्ड.
Nationalization of rupee. Internationalization of rupee refers to a process that involves increasing use of the rupee in cross-border transactions. Oh. It involves promoting the rupee for import and export trade, and then other current account transactions, followed by its use in capital account transactions. What is an international currency? An international currency is a currency, like the US dollar or the euro, used for transactions between countries and beyond the borders of the issuing nation. Just like domestic currency, it performs the three functions of money: as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. Oh, it does so at two distinct levels, for private and public transactions, and resultantly plays 6 roles in total. Currently, the US dollar, the euro, Japanese yen, Chinese renminbi yuan, and the pound sterling are the leading reserve currencies in the world. Benefits of internationalization of rupee: lower currency risk, FX reserve needs. Settling trade in rupees reduces forex losses, transaction costs, and dependence on large foreign reserves. Global standing bargaining power. Wider INR usage strengthens India's role in trade negotiations and boosts its economic influence. Trade policy flexibility. Trading in rupees can soften the impact of sanctions, diversify partners, and ease fiscal management through potential rupee-denominated debt. Financial market development. Greater global demand for INR deepens Indian bond and equity markets, attracts investment, and ensures faster, more transparent transactions. Challenges in internationalization of rupee: increased exchange rate, volatility. Greater global rupee trading increases vulnerability to international market fluctuations, raising transaction costs and complicating financial planning for businesses and investors. Reduced monetary policy. Autonomy. Widespread rupee trading would limit RBI's control over currency value, making inflation and macroeconomic management more challenging. Triffin dilemma, where a country struggles to balance global currency demand with domestic monetary needs. Higher capital flight risk. Increased foreign rupee holdings raise the risk of sudden capital outflows, potentially causing financial crisis and currency depreciation. Greater external shock. Vulnerability. Deeper integration with global financial markets increases rupee's susceptibility to external shocks like interest rate changes and commodity price fluctuations, destabilizing the Indian economy. Competition. The global reserve currency landscape is dominated by US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, and pound sterling, ensuring liquidity and convertibility. The rupee is currently not fully convertible and cannot be freely bought or sold on international markets. Lesser capital account convertibility hinders internationalization of rupee. In India, full current account convertibility is allowed, whereas on capital accounts only partial convertibility is allowed. Steps taken for internationalization of rupee, RBI Strategic Action Plan for 2024 to 25. The annual report 2023 to 24 outlined INR internationalization initiatives, including permitting INR accounts outside India and extending INR denominated loans to persons resident outside India, PROI. Spectra Project, Software Platform for External Commercial Borrowings, ECBs, and Trade Credits Reporting, and approval to streamline external commercial borrowings and trade credits processes. Indian payment infrastructure. India linked UPI with Bhutan, France, Mauritius, Nepal, UAE, Singapore, and is expanding UPI's global reach to other jurisdictions. Asian Clearing Union, ACU. RBI proposed including INR as a settlement currency under ACU. Gift City Development hosts financial market infrastructures including 2 international exchanges and a depository. Liberalized FEMA regulations 1999 by RBI to encourage use of Indian rupee, internationalization of rupee for settlement of cross-border transactions. Other bilateral currency swap agreements, INR as a designated foreign currency in Sri Lanka, issuance of rupee-denominated bonds, that is, masala bonds. Way forward, recommendations of interdepartmental group of RBI, short-term measures, promoting rupee accounts for non-residents, integration of payment systems, and internationalization of Indian payment systems, etc. Medium-term measures, masala bonds, framework, liberalization, expanding real-time, gross settlement, RTGS system for settling international transactions, etc. Long-term measures, inclusion of INR in special drawing rights, SDR basket. SDR is an international reserve asset created by IMF in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserves. Value of the SDR is calculated from a weighted basket of 5 major currencies: US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, Chinese renminbi, British pound. Specific reforms. India can pursue specific reforms like increasing the rupee's convertibility, developing a more robust bond market, enticing exporters and importers to conduct business in rupees, etc. Addressing macroeconomic fundamentals. India needs to concentrate on strengthening its macroeconomic foundations to overcome inflation, non-performing assets, etc. Harmonization of KYC norms. RBI and CB can ease access of foreign investors to INR assets. 3.1 De-dollarization. Why in the news? RBI's push for internationalization of INR through SRVAs, UPI linkages, currency swap agreements, etc. aims to reduce dependence on foreign currencies and contributes to global de-dollarization. What is de-dollarization? It aims to reverse dollarization, historical domination of US dollar in global market, causing a significant reduction of its use in world trade, reserves, and financial transactions. Key reasons for de-dollarization: asymmetry of shrinking US economic weight and growing dominant role of the dollar. While the US share of world GDP has decreased from around 45% post-World War II to approximately 25% currently, the dollar still carries disproportionate share, weakening credibility of dollar. The US government's high debt burden and instances like the 2023 debt ceiling standoff have weakened this credibility. Spillover effects of US monetary policy. Actions by the Federal Reserve, such as hiking interest rates, 2023, have led to currency depreciation, significant increases in debt service costs, and inflation in many countries. Weaponization of US dollar and payment clearance systems. Currently, approximately 40 countries are under US sanctions, which have become more systemic, impacting central governments and policymaking. Aspiration for a new and more democratic international economic order. De-dollarization efforts are also a reflection of a desire to shift away from a unipolar world towards a multipolar new international economic order, NEO. Positive developments outside US, enhanced credibility of alternative currencies like economic and political reforms in China. Challenges with de-dollarization. Transition costs. Moving away from the US dollar requires heavy spending on updating financial systems, adjusting contracts, and renegotiating trade agreements. Market volatility. The shift to new currencies can trigger uncertainty and market instability, affecting global trade and investment flows. Geopolitical tensions. Reducing reliance on the US dollar may spark political frictions and be seen as a challenge to American economic influence. Reserve diversification. Challenges. Holding reserves in alternative currencies or assets like gold brings new risks, including currency depreciation or commodity price swings. Conclusion. In case of India, de-dollarization can be complemented with internationalization of rupee, rupeeification, that would provide complete freedom over buying or selling of the rupee by an entity. 3.4. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management, FRBM, Act, Why in the News. Recently, Comptroller and Auditor General of India, CAG's report has highlighted several fiscal inconsistencies and transparency issues in the government's compliance with the FRBM Act. About FRBM Act 2003. Purpose. The FRBM Act 2003 was enacted to foster intergenerational equity in fiscal management and ensure long-term macroeconomic stability. The Act aims to guide the central government's fiscal policy towards a sustainable path, thereby promoting economic stability and responsible financial governance. A key mandate of the Act is that the CAG must conduct an annual compliance review of its provisions. FRBM Act mandates the following statements to be laid before the Parliament along with the budget. Macroeconomic Framework Statement. Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement. Fiscal Policy Strategy Statement. Key targets under FRBM Act. Parameter, target, deadline, current ratio as of 2023 to 24, SAG report, fiscal deficit, original FRBM, 3% of GDP, the 31st of March 2021, 5.32%, debt limits, general govt, center state, 60% of GDP, central govt, 40% of GDP, end of FY 2024-25 central govt, 57%, general govt, 81.3%, revised fiscal consolidation path, 4.5% of GDP fiscal deficit, FY 2025-26, additional guarantees against Consolidated Fund of India, 0.5% of GDP in any year, annual cap. The targets for revenue and effective revenue deficit were removed by the 2018 amendment to the FRBM Act. Key findings of the CAGE report. Central government debt trends, debt to GDP ratio. The central government debt as a ratio of GDP peaked significantly during the pandemic, reaching 61.38% in FY 2020-21. However, it has since shown a moderating trend, declining to 57% as of March 2024. A high debt to GDP ratio is undesirable, as a higher ratio indicates a higher risk of default. Debt sustainability. A positive signal was acknowledged regarding debt sustainability, with the debt sustainability analysis indicator being positive in 2022-23 and FY 24, indicating stability. Interest payments to revenue receipts. This ratio, considered an important indicator of the government's fiscal health and fiscal strain, rose marginally to 35.35% in 2022-23 after declining from a peak of 38.66% in 2020-21. Compliance with guarantee limits. This remained within the legal ceiling of 0.5% of GDP in 2022-23, indicating compliance. Unrealized tax revenues. The report revealed a significant amount of tax revenue raised but not realized, which surged to Rs 30 trillion by the end of 2022-23. A large portion of this unrealized amount was not under dispute, suggesting potential issues in tax enforcement or recovery processes. Discrepancies in deficit figures. Variations have been seen in estimates for fiscal deficit. Revenue deficit, currently 2.54%. Primary deficit, 1.66% currently, and especially in non-tax revenue estimates. The fiscal deficit figure in the Union Government Finance Accounts, UGFA, for 2022-23 differed from the figure cited in the Budget at a Glance, BAG, for 2024-25. Such discrepancies raise questions about the consistency of key fiscal indicators. Conclusion: the need of the hour is to enhance transparency, tax recovery, and improving fiscal management practices. By working on this, the government can bolster its fiscal credibility, ensure greater accountability, and reinforce the objectives of the FRBM Act to maintain sound fiscal health and macroeconomic stability. Know the terms. Debt sustainability analysis. It is a measure to assess the ability of the government to service its debt-related financial obligations over a period of time.
ये तो definition
Fiscal
है, ठीक है.
deficit. Fiscal deficit is the difference between the government's total expenditure and its total receipts, excluding borrowing. Primary deficit. While fiscal deficit represents the need for additional resources in general, a part of such resources may be needed to finance interest payments. Interest payments represent the expenditure of past obligations and are independent of current allocative priorities. Revenue deficit. Revenue deficit is the excess of revenue expenditure of the government over its revenue receipts. It represents net dissaving of the government for the sake of present consumption. Revenue deficit leads to increase in borrowings without corresponding capital asset formation. Effective revenue deficit. It means the difference between the revenue deficit and grants for creation of capital assets. 3.5. Blue economy. Why in the news? The Ministry of Earth Sciences released a white paper titled Transforming India's Blue Economy, Innovation and Sustainable Growth, outlining a roadmap to 2035. Blue economy in India. Definition. According to the Energy and Resources Institute, blue economy refers to exploring and optimizing the potential of the oceans and seas, which are under India's legal jurisdiction for socio-economic development, environmental sustainability, and national security. The concept of blue economy was first articulated in 1994 by Professor Gunter Pauli at the United Nations University, UNU. Potential. India's extensive coastline, 11,098 kilometers, and large exclusive economic zone, EEZ, of 2.4 million km, with its strategic location on vital global shipping lanes, provides significant potential for developing this sector. Current status. India's blue economy contributes 4% of its GDP, handles 95% of its trade by volume. 12 major, Vadhavan port in Maharashtra will be 13th major port, and 200 minor ports along its coastline. By 2035, India's coastal shipping modal share is expected to grow from 6% to 33%, reflecting robust potential for economic expansion. Challenges related to blue economy in India: environmental, climate change impacts, warming waters, stronger cyclones, sea level rise, erosion of coasts and heritage sites, overfishing and depletion of fish stocks, marine and port pollution damaging ecosystems, coral reefs, mangroves, marine habitats, over-tourism and unplanned development degrading sensitive coastal ecosystems, limited and incomplete environmental impact assessments, EIAs. Example, CAG, in a report in 2022, stated that there are large-scale violations of coastal zone regulations and EIA norms by several projects in the country. Policy and governance. Slow adoption of modern regulatory frameworks for emerging sectors, deep-sea mining, marine biotechnology, renewables. Insufficient enforcement of international commitments and IMO regulations. Need for strong interministerial and interagency coordination and more harmonized policy frameworks, energy, heritage, tourism. Example, multiple government ministries and agencies are involved in various aspects of the blue economy. For example, fisheries, shipping, environment, earth sciences. But a unified and coordinated approach is lacking. Technological and infrastructure. Limited cold chain, storage, and post-harvest facilities in fisheries. Heavy dependence on imported specialized equipment, renewables, deep-sea mining, biotech. Limited shipbuilding and ship repair capacity. Poor transmission and grid readiness for offshore energy. Low commercialization of research outputs in biotechnology, limited access to advanced deep-sea exploration technology. Example, India has used France's IFREMER's submersible, Nautil, for test expeditions in the Atlantic Ocean, financial and investment, Low levels of private sector investment across fisheries, ports, renewables, biotech. Limited financing for small-scale fishers, startups, and coastal tourism cooperatives. Majority of funding for marine biotechnology research in India coming from government bodies like the Department of Biotechnology, rather than private venture capital firms. Social inequity, skill shortages, trained technicians, high-skilled jobs in ports, biotech, deep-sea ops. Weak representation of marginalized groups, tribal women, small-scale fishers, with economic benefits often bypassing them along with persistent threat of displacement. Ido example, women constitute up to 72% of India's coastal fisheries workforce. They are largely confined to informal, low-paying jobs. Successful case studies related to blue economy of India. Kochi's smart port transformation through digital twin integration. Virtual port. The integration has shown tangible benefits in operational efficiency, enhanced planning accuracy, and resilience, while also supporting environmental monitoring. Alang Gujarat, transforming shipbreaking into a circular economy model. Alang achieved compliance with Hong Kong International Convention for the safe and environmentally sound recycling of ships, indicating shift towards environmentally sustainable resource recovery and value addition in a traditionally heavy industry. Andaman and Nicobar Islands, ANI, a model for sustainable coastal and marine tourism. Community-led programs, investing in eco-friendly infrastructure leading to around 5,000 jobs and reduced tourist zone waste by 40%. Blue Flag certification for beaches and marine spatial planning, MSP, helped regulate tourism in marine protected areas, MPAs. Community-led seaweed cultivation in Odisha, a model for sustainable coastal livelihoods. Odisha's annual seaweed output has reached approximately 5,000 tons, providing crucial supplementary income for over 10,000 coastal households. Environmentally, seaweed farming absorbs dissolved carbon dioxide, contributes to climate change, mitigation, improves water quality, and reduces pressure on stressed fish stocks. Conclusion: targeted investments in green technologies, resilient infrastructure, and skill development are crucial for India's blue economy. Sustainable resource management and inclusive participation, along with innovative financing models like blue bonds, carbon credit markets, and public-private partnerships, will mobilize capital, fostering long-term competitiveness and resilience while balancing economic growth with environmental health. 3.6 Mines and Minerals, Development and Regulation, Amendment Act
Amendment
2025. Why in the news? Recently, the Mines and Minerals, Development and Regulation Amendment Act 2025 was passed by Parliament. More on the news. The Act amends Mines and Minerals, Development and Regulation Act 1957. The Act was last amended in 2023 with key provisions like empowering central government to auction mineral concessions in respect of such minerals, so the Act will enhance availability of critical and strategic minerals in India. Introduction of a new list of 24 critical and strategic minerals for increasing exploration and production. Introduction of exploration
24.
license for critical and deep-seated minerals. Why critical strategic minerals are increasingly becoming important for India? Chinese control on supply chain. China currently controls 60-70% of rare earth production and 80 to 90% of global processing capacity. Clean energy transition and climate goals, e.g. silicon, tellurium, indium, and gallium, are used in photovoltaic PV cells, and rare earth elements such as dysprosium and neodymium are used in permanent magnets for wind turbines. Electric mobility, e.g. lithium, nickel, cobalt, are key materials used in lithium-ion batteries and advanced energy storage systems, and are also crucial for success of National Electric Mobility Mission Plan, NEMP. National security and defense capabilities. Critical minerals support a wide range of military capabilities, from communications and surveillance systems to weaponry and protective gear. Securing digital sovereignty. Ensuring resilient supply chain is crucial for further digital economy and technological self-reliance. OEG silicon forms the basis of microchips, whereas cobalt is used to enhance memory and logic devices. Accelerating SDG gains. It has potential to attract foreign and domestic investment, create jobs, and boost fiscal revenues, exports, and growth. OEG Chile has used copper revenues to support poverty reduction, SDG 1, improved health services, SDG 3, UNDISA. Key amendments and their significance, amendment, details, significance. National Mineral Exploration and Development Trust, NMET, replaces earlier National Mineral Exploration Trust, NMET, with widened scope and territorial domain. NMET can use funds accrued to it within India, including the offshore areas and outside India, for the purposes of exploration and development of mines and minerals. Increased amount of payment to trust by lessees to 3% of royalty from 2%. Supports National Critical Mineral Mission, NCMM. Expenditure of 8,700 crore rupees is envisaged from NMET under NCMM in next 5 years. Inclusion of other minerals in a mining lease. Leaseholders can apply to state government for adding other minerals to an existing lease. No additional amount needs to be paid for inclusion of critical and strategic minerals and other specified minerals. Incentivizes production of critical, strategic, and minerals. These minerals are found in small quantity and are difficult to mine and process. OEG, cobalt, nickel are in generally association with copper ores. Found, inclusion of contiguous area, allows for one-time extension of area under a mining lease up to 10% or composite lease up to 30% for deep-seated minerals. Optimal mining of deep-seated minerals. Extraction of these minerals may not be economically viable under a separate lease or license. Establishment of mineral exchanges. Establishes authority to register and regulate mineral exchanges, a registered electronic trading platform or marketplace for trading minerals and metals. Empower central government to frame rules regarding mineral exchanges on matters such as registration, levy of fees, prevention of insider trading, etc. Promote in mining sector. It will help miners and end users of minerals in determining fair, transparent market and prices based on supply and demand dynamics. Investment. Removal of limit on sale for captive mines. No limit on sale of minerals by captive mines. Earlier captive mines were allowed to sell only up to 50% of minerals produced in a year after meeting end-use requirements. Bring more minerals in market and additional provide revenue to the states. Captive mines allowed to sell dumps of stacked minerals, which cannot be captively utilized to reduce environment hazards and increase safety in mine workings. Conclusion. India's shift to green energy depends heavily on having access to critical minerals. As the country works to lower its carbon emissions and improve energy security, it's crucial to ensure a reliable supply of these essential minerals. To read more about critical minerals in NCMM, refer to Article 3.2, National Critical Mineral Mission, NCMM, in the February 2025 Monthly Current Affairs magazine. 3.7. Gig workers. Why in the news? Recently, Karnataka's State Legislative Assembly passed the Karnataka Platform-Based Gig Workers, Social Security and Welfare Bill, 2025, to protect the rights of workers. More about the bill. Establishment of Welfare Board. It will oversee registration of workers and aggregators, create social security schemes, monitor the schemes, etc. Establishment of Social Security and Welfare Fund consists of welfare fee levied on transactions, BW worker aggregator, or on overall turnover of company. Contributions from union and state governments. Others, aggregators will register gig workers, share work terms, and explain how automated systems affect their conditions. Rajasthan and Bihar have passed laws in this regard in 2023 and 2025, respectively. About gig workers. Definition. The Code on Social Security, 2020, defines a gig worker as a person who works outside a traditional employer-employee relationship. Types. Platform and non-platform based workers. Platform workers are those whose work is based on online apps or digital platforms, e.g. Ola, Uber, Zomato, Swiggy, Urban Company, etc. Non-platform gig workers are generally casual wage workers and own account workers in the conventional sectors, working part-time or full-time. Reasons for growth. Demographic dividend. 65 of Indians are in age group of 15-64 years. Rapid urbanization. Boost to the remote work during COVID-19. Adoption of smartphones and internet. In India, 85.5% of households possess at least one smartphone, etc. Significance of the gig economy. For government, to utilize demographic dividend by ensuring employability, business that serves the gig economy account for 56 of all new jobs created in India. Economic growth. By 2030, India's gig economy might see $250 billion in transactions or 1.25% of GDP. Niti Aayog. For society, empowering the vulnerable section. According to ILO, digital platforms' flexible employment benefits women, youth, and physically disabled. Micro-entrepreneurship. Platforms like Airbnb and Urban Company let people monetize their skills, assets, and time while lowering entry barriers such as high startup costs. For workers, flexible employment. Remote work, on-demand, and task-based arrangements, flexible work hours, etc. Skill development. The gig economy imparts a range of skills such as digital literacy, self-management, communication, problem-solving, etc. For consumers, access to the global market, for example Airbnb and Amazon. Greater convenience via personalized and cheaper products. Challenges for gig workers, lack of social security. More than 82.5% of gig workers are informal employees. Niti Aayog. Health and safety concerns. Due to the nature of the job, for example, tight delivery schedule can cause accidents. High working hours. 60% of platform workers work 7 days a week, while 47% of the workers work for more than 12 hours a day. Tata Institute of Social Science. Income uncertainty. According to Fair Work India, around half of the gig workers did not receive the statutory minimum wage. Algorithmic asymmetry. Platforms use algorithms to manage work. However, reliance on this leads to various imbalances such as information access. Platform aggregators have access to workers' personal information, raising privacy concerns. Transparency. Rating systems, task distribution, and wage based on data, etc. are often guided by algorithms, which are opaque, increasing the possibility of unfair calculations. Conclusion. A comprehensive framework can be brought for gig and platform workers that ensures fair wages, social security, safe workplaces, gender inclusion, and protection from discrimination. It should mandate transparency, algorithmic accountability, and the right to unionize while promoting training, grievance redressal, and access to finance. 3.8 Income Tax Act 2025. Why in the news? The President has given her assent to the Income Tax Act 2025, which replaces the Income Tax Act 1961. Key highlight of the Act. Commencement. The Act would come into force on the 1st of April 2026. Shorter and simpler. New Act has simpler language and is shorter than the previous bill. The provisions of minimum alternate tax MAT and alternate minimum tax AMT
It's very
have been
important.
separated into two subsections. Stability and core tax elements, minimum alternate tax MAT. It aims to bring into the tax net zero tax companies, which in spite of having earned substantial book profits and having paid handsome dividends, do not pay any tax due to various tax concessions and incentives provided under the income tax law. The provisions of MAT are applicable to a corporate taxpayer only. Alternate minimum tax, AMT. Tax rates and regimes for individuals and corporations. It has similar provisions as MAT, which is applicable to non-corporate taxpayers. Remain unchanged. There are no changes in offenses and penalties. Most definitions have also been retained. Faceless collection of information and assessment of tax cases. Power to frame schemes. The Act empowers the central government to frame new schemes for greater efficiency, transparency, and accountability. Undisclosed income. The definition of undisclosed income for assessing search cases, which previously included money, bullion, jewelry, or other valuable articles, is expanded to include virtual digital assets. Virtual digital space. Access. Income tax authorities are now allowed to gain access to a virtual digital space during search and seizure proceedings. O. The authorities will have power to gain access by overriding any required access code. OA. Virtual digital space is defined broadly to include email servers, social media accounts, online investment and trading accounts and websites for storing details of asset ownership. Dispute Resolution Panel. The Act allows certain eligible assessees to refer draft orders passed by assessing officers to a dispute resolution panel. O. These assessees include persons engaged in transfer pricing cases, non-residents or foreign companies. O. Transfer pricing refers to the price charged in a transaction between related entities of a multinational enterprise. Pending proceedings. Any proceedings pending before any income tax authority, appellate tribunal, or court on the commencement of the new Act will continue and be disposed of as if the new Act had not been enacted. Interpretation of tax treaties. The Act allows the central government to enter into agreements with other countries to provide relief in cases of double taxation. Related news. The President has given her assent to the Taxation Laws Amendment Act, 2025. It is a legislative measure designed to modify existing tax laws, primarily the Income Tax Act, 1961, and the Finance Act, 2025. Key features of the Act. Exemption for the Unified Pension System, UPS. Tax exemptions aligned with new pension scheme benefits. Tax benefit to public investment funds, PIF, of Saudi Arabia subsidiaries. O. Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia has total $925 billion plus assets under management. Block assessment in search cases. It aims to streamline treatment of pending assessments, reassessments in block assessment procedures. 3.9. Environmental, Social and Governance, ESG. Why in the news? The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance submitted a report in Lok Sabha and gave recommendations to improve ESG framework in India. What is ESG framework? ESG, Environmental, Social and Governance, is a framework for evaluating a company's sustainability and ethical practices across three key areas: environmental impact, social responsibility, and corporate governance. Significance of ESG framework. Global alignment supports national and international sustainable development goals, including SDGs and Paris Agreement. Financial access attracts ESG-conscious investors, customers, and employees while enabling access to green financing. Operational efficiency reduces costs through sustainable practices like renewable energy adoption. Competitive advantage drives innovation and resilience through best practices that minimize environmental/social impacts. Brand value creates positive societal impact by addressing community needs and stakeholder concerns. Challenges of ESG reporting in India, highlighted by the Parliamentary Standing Committee. Persistent risk of greenwashing. False or misleading claims about their ESG performance may lead to a loss of brand image. Inconsistent implementation across sectors due to lack of recognized regulations and fragmented approach of reporting. Difficulties faced by small businesses in adopting ESG practices. ESG adoption needs high upfront costs in terms of data collection, reporting, certification, etc., posing burdens for small and mid-sized firms lacking resources and expertise. Other challenges: lack of awareness and education. Many Indian businesses lack ESG awareness, expertise, and professionals. Education on sustainability and ESG remains limited and underdeveloped. Integration with business strategy. Companies struggle to align ESG with core strategies, leading to costly, unproductive efforts that fail to create value or sustainability. Data quality and availability. Many Indian companies lack proper systems and standards, making ESG data unreliable and hard to measure or report consistently. Regulatory fragmentation. SEBI mandates ESG disclosure for top 1,000 listed firms. India lacks uniform regulations, clear, harmonized reporting frameworks. O. Way forward to make ESG effective. Recommendation of Parliamentary Standing Committee. Dedicated ESG oversight. Body. To be set up under Ministry of Corporate Affairs to combat greenwashing. Amendment to Companies Act, 2013. To include ESG objectives as part of fiduciary duties of the directors. Independent ESG committees for ensuring effective implementation and monitoring of ESG strategies, Other recommendations: set clear ESG goals. Businesses should start by setting clear ESG goals that are aligned with their business strategy. These goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Invest in ESG training and capacity building for effective implementation of ESG strategies. Partner with ESG experts. Businesses can partner with ESG consulting firms to help them with ESG adoption. These experts can provide guidance and support on ESG best practices. Other initiatives to promote ESG in India. Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, BRSR. It is a reporting framework notified by the CB for top 1,000 listed companies in India. BRSR Core. It mandates companies to disclose detailed information on various aspects of their value chains. National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct, NGRBCs. These are voluntary guidelines released by Ministry of Corporate Affairs in 2019 with aim to encourage businesses to adopt ethical and sustainable practices. Corporate Social Responsibility. Section 135 of Companies Act, 2013 makes it mandatory for companies of a certain turnover and profitability to spend 2% of their average net profit for the past 3 years on CSR activities. 3.10 Competition Commission of India. Why in the news? Recently, the Standing Committee on Finance tabled a report titled Evolving Role of Competition Commission of India in the Economy, particularly the digital landscape, before Parliament. Role of CCI. Eliminate practices having adverse effect on competition. E.g., in the Umar Javeed versus Google case, the CCI directed Google not to restrict app developers from distributing apps via sideloading. Sideloading means installing apps on a device from outside the official app store. Protect the interests of consumers. E.g., CCI fined Meta for abusing dominance by sharing WhatsApp's user data with other Meta companies. Advise the government on competition issues. E.g., the Competition Assessment Toolkit by CCI to help GovTarla. Analyze laws and regulations to identify aspects that restrict competition. Inquire, investigate, pass orders and impose penalty on anti-competitive practices. E.g., in the Google search bias case, it imposed a Rs 135 crore penalty. It also has the powers of a civil court, summons, evidence, etc. Regulate mergers. E.g., it approved the Walmart-Flipkart merger after evaluating concerns such as predatory pricing, deep discounting, impact on offline retailers, etc., adapting to evolving challenges. E.g., Digital Markets Division, DMD, was constituted by CCI to cope up with challenges posed by digitization to fair competition study technology and its impact on competition assisting in work relating to the Draft Digital Competition Bill, DCB, etc. Evolving challenges before CCI. Digitization. It has introduced efficiencies but has also posed significant challenges. Tech firms as gatekeepers controlling access between consumers and businesses. E.g., XAI filed case against Apple's exclusive integration of ChatGPT into iOS. Network effects. E.g., WhatsApp's take it or leave it policy of 2021, compelling all users to accept data, collection terms to leverage networking effect, was fined by CCI. Data advantage. Big tech platforms' ability to control vast amounts of user data undermines the ability of smaller firms to compete. The European Union regulators accused Amazon of misusing data from third-party sellers on its platform to gain an unfair advantage in retail. Ecosystem dominance. E.g., Apple's ecosystem, Apple Pay, Safari browser, iCloud, Apple Music. Other challenges. Self-preferencing. Platforms prioritize their own products, predatory pricing, and deep discounting, tying, and bundling, etc. Lack of a comprehensive policy framework. National competition policy was prepared in 2011, but is yet to be enforced. Digital Competition Bill, DCB. Concerns. Broad thresholds. Absence of a rebuttal mechanism and potential overlap with the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, DPDP Act. Cross-jurisdictional issues. Cross-border digital markets and players require the CCI to collaborate with global regulators. Resource and capacity gaps. CCI faces significant human resource vacancies. only 113 out of 195 sanctioned posts filled. And lack of specialized technical expertise, for example AI. Enforcement effectiveness, CCI imposed penalties, Rs 18,512.28 crore out of Rs 20,350.46 crore are stayed or dismissed by appellate courts. Threats to MSMEs, ARS 2000 crore deal value threshold, DVT, allows large corporations to acquire MSMEs without regulatory scrutiny. Recent initiatives to streamline Competition Amendment Act 2023, deal value threshold, DVT, to regulate merger acquisition M&As, particularly in the digital markets. All M&A transactions with deal value exceeding Rs 2,000 crore are to be notified to the CCI. Settlement and commitment mechanisms. Empowers CCI to accept voluntary commitments from parties in certain anti-competitive cases. Proportional penalties. To file an appeal against a CCI order, a mandatory deposit of 25% of the imposed penalty is now required. Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 establishes a legal framework for safeguarding personal data and regulating data-driven practices of digital firms. Way forward, recommendations of the committee, digital competition regulation, use market studies, AI, etc. Implementation of the national competition policy, etc. Learning from the best practices, such as Digital Markets Act of the European Union, which is an ex-ante-competition framework, ensures that gatekeepers behave fairly online. A lower DVT for MSMEs. It could be considered for acquisitions involving MSMEs and proactive investigations by CCI into predatory pricing by dominant online platforms. Ensure data access for MSMEs to compete with big digital firms. Institutional capacity and resource gaps. Sanctioned strength of CCI must be increased. Invest in continuous training, international collaboration, etc. Refining digital competition. Bill. To address certain concerns like its broad threshold. 3.11. Indian Ports Act 2025. Why in the news? The President of India has given her assent to the Indian Ports Act 2025, which replaces the Indian Ports Act 1908. Indian Ports Act 2025. It seeks to consolidate the law relating to ports, promote integrated port development, facilitate ease of doing business, and ensure optimum utilization of India's coastline. Key features of the Act: statutory recognition to Maritime State Development Council, MSDC. It is established by the central government to make recommendations on the legal framework, port sector growth, competition, efficiency, and port connectivity. Composition Union Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways shall be the ex officio chairman. Ministers in charge of each coastal state, secretaries in the Indian Navy and Coast Guard dealing with coastal security, and Secretary of the Union Ministry for Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Statutory recognition to state maritime boards, SMB. SMB administer non-major ports within their respective states. Adjudicatory mechanisms. Each state government must constitute a dispute resolution committee to adjudicate disputes between ports, other than major ports, whose civil courts are barred jurisdiction over matters. From having MARPOL and BWM Convention. MARPOL is the main international convention covering prevention of pollution of the marine environment by ships from operational or accidental causes. India is a signatory to this convention. Appeals from the committee's orders can be made to the High Court within 60 days. Port tariff and charges. For major ports, tariffs are fixed by the Board of Major Port Authority or Board of Directors, if a company. For ports other, BWM Convention is a treaty to help prevent the spread of potentially harmful aquatic organisms and pathogens in ships' ballast water. India is not a party to the convention. Then major ports, the authorized respective concessionaires fix the tariffs, or SMB. Both treaties are adopted by International Maritime Organization, IMO. Port officer. The Act specifies the conservator as a port officer appointed by the state government for each port or a group of ports. It possesses powers to issue directions regarding vessel berthing, mooring, anchoring, movement, and removal of obstructions. Megaports. Central government, in consultation with state governments, can notify criteria for classifying ports as megaports. A megaport retains its original status, major or non-major, and shall continue to be governed by the respective laws applicable to such port. Emergency preparedness and response plan for safety, security, disaster management, and pollution incidents subject to central government approval and audit. Environmental and pollution control mandates compliance with International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships (MARPOL) Convention and Ballast Water Management (BWM) Convention. Penalty. Certain offences from the 1908 Act are decriminalised and made punishable with monetary penalties. Digital integration and data management introduces provisions for electronic integration of port-related data with the port community system or centralized system. Prior clearance for ownership changes introduces a new requirement for any port undergoing a change in substantial ownership or effective control to obtain prior clearance from the central government. Exclusions. Act does not apply to specified ports, navigable rivers, aircrafts exclusively servicing military, non-commercial government, Indian Navy, Coast Guard, foreign vessels of war, etc. Conclusion. The Indian Ports Act 2025 is a landmark reform aiming to modernize port governance, promote efficiency, and align India with global maritime standards. However, concerns over need for classification of megaports and absence of appeal against penalties levied by the conservator must be addressed. With proper checks, the Act can drive India's ambition of emerging as a top maritime nation by 2047. Ports in India. Presently, India has 12 major ports. 13th major port is under construction at Vadhavan, Palghar district, Maharashtra, and approximately 200 non-major ports. Major ports. Wholly owned by central government or non-major ports, managed by and under the control of the respective state maritime board, state government. 95% of India's trading by volume and 70% by value is done through maritime trade. Major ports handled 53% of maritime cargo traffic, while non-major ports, including private ones like Mundra and Sikka, handled 47%. Over the past decade, FY 2014 to 15 to FY 2024 to 25, key productivity indicators also showed substantial progress. Output per ship berthday, OSPD, increased from 12,458 tons to 18,304 tons. Average turnaround time, TRT, improved by 48%, reducing from 96 hours to 49.5 hours. Idle time dropped by approximately 29% from 23.1% to 16.3%. Initiatives for port development, Sagamala, 2015, port-led development of India's maritime sector. Maritime India Vision, 2030, aimed at enhancing the performance and productivity of the maritime sector through ports, shipping, and waterways. Major Ports Authority Act, 2021, provide for regulation, operation, and planning of major ports in India. FDI policy allows for 100% foreign direct investment, FDI, in the construction and maintenance of ports and harbors under the automatic route. 3. 11.1. 10 years of Sagamala program. Why in the news? Sagamala program has achieved 118% growth in coastal shipping over the last decade, reducing logistics costs and emissions. About Sagamala program, Ministry, launched in 2015 by Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, MoPSW. Aim, to accelerate economic development in the country by harnessing the potential of India's 11,098 kilometers long coastline and 14,500 kilometers of potentially navigable waterways. Key objective. Reduce logistics cost for export-import, EXIM, and domestic trade with minimal infrastructure investment. Enhance domestic waterways, inland and coastal, in the multimodal transport. Create jobs and develop skills in ports and maritime sector. Funding structure, public-private partnership, internal extra budgetary resources by MoPSW, grant and aid for projects with high social impact and equity through special purpose vehicles, SPVs. Sagamala 2.0, Launched in 2025 with focus areas including shipbuilding, repair, braking and recycling, and port modernization. Institutional framework for implementing Sagamala program. Apex body, National Sagamala Apex Committee, NSAC, chaired by Minister of Shipping for policy direction and oversight of the program. Sagamala Coordination and Steering Committee, SCSC, under chairmanship of Cabinet Secretary to provide coordination between ministries, state governments and agencies to implement the projects. State Sagamala Committee, chaired by Chief Minister of Minister in charge of ports for coordinating and facilitating Sagamala-related projects and take up matters on priority as decided in NSAC. State Maritime Board, State Port Departments, they shall service the State Sagamala Committee and also be inter alia, responsible for coordination and implementation. Sagamala Development Company Limited. It is set up under Companies Act 2013 to assist the state. Zone level special purpose vehicles. It is now renamed as Sagamala Finance Corporation Limited, SMFCL, India's first non-banking financial company, NBFC, in the maritime sector. Various initiatives taken under Sagamala program. Sagamala Startup Innovation Initiative, S2Y2, launched in March 2025 to drive research, innovation, startups and entrepreneurship, RISE, in maritime technology. Center of Excellence in Maritime and Shipbuilding, SEMS. It was set up in 2017 by Ministry of Shipping in collaboration with Siemens and Indian Register of Shipping, IRS, under Sagamala program. Coastal Berth Scheme. It aims to provide financial support to ports and state governments for creation of infrastructure for movement of cargo and passenger by sea or national waterways. Conclusion. Sagamala 2.0 will position India as a hub for maritime innovation and sustainability, thereby steering towards a globally competitive maritime ecosystem that fuels economic growth, job creation, and blue economy. 3.12. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, PM Jazai. Why in the news? The Parliamentary Standing Committee in its report has flagged slow progress of work under PMGSY in left-wing extremism, LWE, affected areas. About PMGSY, Ministry of Rural Development. Type, launched in December 2000 as centrally sponsored scheme objective. To provide all-weather road connectivity to eligible unconnected rural habitations as a strategy for poverty alleviation. 62,500 kilometers of all-weather roads to be constructed or bridges will be built, modernized along the alignment of these roads. Habitation population criteria for PMGSY, 500 plus in plains, 250 plus in northeastern hill states, and 100 plus in LWE affected districts as per Census 2011. Salient features of PMGSY. Institutional arrangements. National Rural Infrastructure Development Agency, NREDA, provides technical managerial support. State Rural Roads Development Agencies, SRRDAs, for state-level implementation. Decentralized planning. Full involvement of Panchayati Raj institutions, MLAs and MPs. Monitoring and grievance redressal systems. OMAS, Online Management, Monitoring and Accounting System. Web-based system developed by CDAC for PMGSY to enhance transparency and accountability in road construction projects. EMARC platform uses geotagged photos from its mobile app to verify road maintenance work for payments and monitor contractor performance. Grievance redressal, Mary Sadak. App to address concerns related to slow pace, abandoned work or bad quality. Use of new materials, green technologies, fly ash, lime, polymers, etc. for soil ecognized in Portland cement, concrete for white topping cold mix, asphalt for lower PM10 emissions and reduced energy consumption than hot mix asphalt, waste plastic as a modifier for bituminous hot mixes. Coir geotextiles are used for improvement of subgrade soil strength in road pavements and stabilization of side slopes. Use of iron, copper and steel slag increases resistance of the road to wear and tear. Bioengineering, for example, jute, bamboo for slope ecognizing. Observations of committee about scheme. Issue low bidding of tenders. Observation contractors often quote 2,530% below minimum bid, raising quality concerns. Recommendation form committee to assess impact of low bidding on road quality. Keep aside difference between minimum bid quoted bid as security which shall be released only after quality compliance. Poor quality of construction of roads and poor maintenance. Linkage of unconnected habitation, non-compliance with norms, use of poor materials, and failing to withstand weather, traffic, monsoons, etc. Roads often end at village periphery, and many small settlements, Desam, Danis, Tolas, Madras, hamlets, remain 2-3 kilometers inside, missing connectivity benefits. Department of Rural Development, DORD, must enforce strict adherence to quality norms. Need for stronger monitoring and accountability, shortlisting and blacklisting erring contractors. DORD should review road connectivity policy to actual unconnected roads. Lapses in coordination between center and state. Projects often face delays due to logistical issues or late release by center/fund states. DORD to devise a better cohesive mode of coordination along with an effective monitoring mechanism. Slow progress in LWE areas. Pending work under Road Connectivity Project for Left Areas Extremism Wing, RCPEL-VA, despite extension of deadline to March 2025. Challenges like insurgency, tough terrain, law and order issues, and forest clearances can be addressed through better planning, stakeholder coordination, and recognized agencies like BRO. Adopt innovative, area-specific solutions to avoid further delays and ensure timely completion. Conclusion. There is a close link between rural connectivity and socio-economic aspects, such as economic growth, employment, education, and healthcare. Effective implementation of PMGSY will bring rapid sustainable development and socio-economic transformation in rural India. 3.13 100th birth anniversary of Miss Swaminathan. Why in the news? Prime Minister addressed the MS Swaminathan Centenary International Conference in New Delhi. More on the news. The theme of the conference is Evergreen Revolution, the pathway to biohappiness, reflecting Swaminathan's lifelong dedication to food security. The MS Swaminathan Award for Food and Peace was instituted in his honor. This international award will be presented to individuals from developing countries who have made significant contributions in the field of food security. The first award was conferred to Nigerian scientist Prof. Ademola A. Adenle. Key contribution of MS Swaminathan, Green Revolution architect, 1960s-70s. Focused on increasing food production through the adoption of advanced breeding modern techniques. He, along with Norman Borlaug, initiated a breeding program that incorporated dwarfing genes into wheat, producing shorter, stronger plants that boosted yields. Introduced semi-dwarf Mexican wheat, Sonora, Lerma Rojo 64, and high-yielding indica rice varieties. Played a key role in the development of Pusa Basmati, 1989, which was the world's first semi-dwarf and high-yielding basmati variety. Championing the Evergreen Revolution. Swaminathan supported the Green Revolution but cautioned against its side effects like chemical overuse, monoculture, and soil damage. He proposed the Evergreen Revolution for lasting productivity without ecological harm. This represented a paradigm shift from a commodity. Evergreen Revolution, it linking livelihood security with ecological security. Key components include eco-agriculture, bio-villages, village knowledge centers, and ethics inequities in economic, social, and gender divides. Is pro-nature and pro-poor, centric to a systems approach. Ecological foundations and practices, advocated integrated pest management, IPM, and integrated nutrient management, INM, to reduce chemical reliance and maintain soil fertility. Stressed and renewable energy, for example biogas, solar, wind, in farming. Focused, rainwater conservation on farm crops, drought/salt tolerant, championed millets, Shriana, demonstrating foresight on climate adaptation, underlined biodiversity, climate resilient and conservation by influencing acts like the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act 2001 and the Biological Diversity Act 2002. Biohappiness, idea of the introduced is the state of well-being, and biohappiness is fulfillment that arises when biodiversity. Key achievements and prizes, Bharat Ratna, 2024 posthumously. Padma Shri, 1967. Padma Bhushan, 1972. Padma Vibhushan, 1987. Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award, 1961. Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award,
सब मिला है इनको
1999. Indira
जितना
Gandhi
इंडिया में
Prize,
होता है
2001. World Food Prize, 1987. Inaugural recipient, Ramon Magsaysay Award, 1971. Albert Einstein World Science Award, 1986. Named Father of Economic Ecology by the United Nations Environment Programme, International Orders, Order of Golden Heart, Philippines, Order of Agricultural Merit, France, Order of the Golden Ark, Netherlands, Order of Cambodia. Conserved and utilized in ways that enhance human
Wow.
health, nutrition, and livelihoods, creating harmony between people and nature. Women in Agriculture, the Women Farmers Entitlements Bill, 2011, a private member bill, was introduced by M.S. Swaminathan. It aims to provide for the gender-specific needs of women farmers, to protect their legitimate needs and entitlements, and to empower them with rights over agricultural land, water resources, etc. Focus on nutritional security. Advocated shifting from food security to nutrition security, targeting protein hunger, calorie hunger, and hidden hunger, micronutrient deficiencies. Promoted biofortified and nutrition-rich crops. Leading national agricultural initiatives. Chaired National Commission on Farmers, NCF, from 2004 to 2006, producing 5 reports on farmer distress. A key recommendation was setting minimum support price, MSP, at least 50% above the weighted average cost of production. He founded the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences, NAS, in 1990 for unbiased agricultural policy, guidance. Conclusion: M.S. Swaminathan worked until his passing to empower small farmers, particularly rural women, through economic growth strategies. His dedication to science, society, and nature left an indelible mark on global agricultural development and human well-being. 3.14 News in Shorts 3. 14.1 Sovereign Credit Ratings. S&P upgraded India's long-term sovereign credit rating to BB from BB and its short-term rating to A2 from A3 with a stable outlook. This marks the India's first sovereign upgrade by S&P after 2007, when India was elevated to investment grade at BBB. The upgrade reflects India's commitment to fiscal consolidation, improved quality of public spending, and strong corporate, financial, and external balance sheets. About sovereign credit ratings, SCR. It refers to an independent evaluation of a country's creditworthiness and seeks to quantify issuers' ability to meet debt obligations. Major SCR agencies: S&P, Fitch, and Moody's. Rating grades. SCR broadly rate countries as either investment grade or speculative grade, with the latter projected to have a higher likelihood of default on borrowings. The investment grade rating ranges from BBB TO AAA for S&P and Fitch and Bar 3 to R for Moody's. Significance. When favorable, these can facilitate countries access to global capital markets and foreign investment and reduce borrowing cost. Issues. There are concerns over bias in rating processes, conflicts of interest, and rating ceiling. Rating ceiling relates to the notion that a corporate issuer is not rated higher than the country that it resides within, constraining growth of a country's domestic marketplace. 3. 14.2 Gift city-like financial centers. Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance has recommended for development of more gift city-like financial centers in major metro cities. India's first and only International Financial Services Center, IFSC, was established within Gujarat International Financial Tech City,
in
Gift
Ahmedabad.
City. About Gift City IFSC, Gandhinagar, Gujarat. It was established as a Special Economic Zone, SEZ, in 2015. Designated as a non-resident zone under Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. IFSC is a jurisdiction that provides onshore and offshore financial services to non-residents and residents institutions in a foreign currency. Functions. A favorable tax structure, offers cross-border financial products and services within a competitive tax, Environment. O trusted regulatory environment provides onshore talent with an offshore technological and regulatory framework. O ease of doing business. Facilitates movement of international financial services based on global standards. Promotes inbound and outbound investment to India. Regulatory body. International Financial Services Centers Authority, IFSCA, regulates financial products, financial services, and financial institutions in IFSCs in India. O established in 2020 under the IFSCA Act 2019. Current status. GIFT IFSC ranked 46th in the Global Financial Centers Index, a 5-rank improvement. Ranked 45th in the FinTech rankings, a 4-rank improvement. 14.3. India's retail inflation moderated to 8-year low of 1.55% in July 2025.
This is very important.
Measured by the All India Consumer Price Index, CPI, it shows the lowest year-on-year inflation rate after June 2017. Further, year-on-year inflation rate based on All India Consumer Food Price Index, CFPI, or food inflation, stood at minus 1.76% in July 2025, lowest after January 2019. Reason for the decline. Favorable base effect. Refers to the impact of the corresponding reference year on current growth estimates. Decline in inflation. In items like pulses and products, transport and communication, vegetables, cereal and products, education, etc. About CPI. Meaning, if the change over time in general level of prices of goods and services that households acquire for consumption. Significance. Widely used macroeconomic indicator of inflation, tool for inflation targeting by governments and central banks, deflators in national accounts, indexing dearness allowance to employees, published by Central Statistical Office CSO on 12th of every month. Components. Includes 4 CPI numbers at the national level, namely OCPI for industrial workers, IW, OCPI for agricultural laborers, AL, OCPI for rural laborers, RL, and OCPI for urban non-manual employees, UME. Base year for CPI, 2012. Comparison with Wholesale Price Index, WPI. WPI captures the inflation at the wholesale level and differs with CPI in terms of their weighing patterns. O-Food has a larger weight in CPI while Fuel Group has greater weight in WPI. 14.4. RBI's Free AI Vision for Financial Sector. RBI Committee unveiled framework for responsible and ethical enablement of artificial intelligence, Free AI, to balance innovation with risk management in financial services. About Free AI Vision. Aim, ensuring safe, fair, and accountable AI adoption in India's financial sector. 7 Sutras. Foundational Principles for AI Adoption. Refer to the infographics. Dual approach. O, fostering innovation, shared, for democratized data and compute access, which may be integrated with the AI Kosh established under the India AI Mission. Infrastructure. AI Innovation Sandbox for testing indigenous financial AI models. Create AI Policy 4. Regulatory guidance, institutional building workforce, capacity, and boards, relaxed compliance for low-risk AI solutions to facilitate inclusion and other priorities. O mitigating risk. Board-approved AI policies by regulated entities. Inclusion of AI-related aspects in product approval processes, consumer protection frameworks and audits. Strengthen cybersecurity and incident reporting. Robust AI lifecycle governance, consumer awareness when they interact with AI. Why Free AI Vision matters. AI's growing impact. The financial sector's AI investment is projected to reach IORS 8 lakh crore, $97 billion, by 2027 across banking, insurance, capital markets, and payments ORs 1. 02 lakh crore, $12 billion, by 2033 for Gen I alone, growing at 28 to 34% annually. Emerging complex risks. AI introduces data privacy, algorithmic bias, market manipulation, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and governance failures that traditional risk frameworks struggle to address. These risks could undermine market integrity, erode consumer trust, and create systemic vulnerabilities without proper management. 14.5. Small Finance Bank Universal License, The Reserve Bank has granted in principle approval to AU Small Finance Bank for transitioning from a small finance bank, SFB, to a universal bank for the first time in a decade. A universal banking license permits a financial institution to offer a wide array of banking services, including commercial and investment banking, under a single umbrella. Last time, the universal banking licenses were granted in 2014 to Bandhan Bank and IDFC Bank, which later became IDFC First Bank. Eligibility criteria for SFB to transition into a universal bank. Status, scheduled status for a minimum period of 5 years. Stock listing. Shares of the bank should have been listed on a recognized stock exchange. Net worth, having a minimum net worth of Rs1,000 crore. CRAR, meeting the prescribed CRR requirements for SFB's financial health. O, profitability, should have net profits in the last 2 financial years. O, asset quality, gross non-performing assets, GNPA, and net NPA, NNPA, must be less than or equal to 3% and 1% respectively over the last 2 FYs. Promoter requirements. No addition of new promoters or changes to existing promoters during the transition. Preference. SFBs with a diversified loan portfolio will be preferred. 3. 14.6. RBI tightens co-lending norms. Recently, RBI issued revised directions for co-lending arrangements, CLA, between banks and non-bank financial companies, NBFCs, under various provisions of the Banking Regulation Act, 1949, Reserve Bank of India Act, 1934, and National Housing Bank Act, 1987. What is co-lending? Under CLAs, regulated entities, RAs, can enter into a lending arrangement with other RES for extension of credit to the borrowers, subject to compliance with the extant prudential regulations. Key highlights of the revised directions. Minimum share, each REE to retain a minimum 10% share of the loans. Priority sector lending, PSL status. Each lender can claim PSL status for its share under co-lending if the loan qualifies as priority sector. Uniform asset classification system. If one lender tags a loan as non-performing asset, NPA, other co-lenders must do the same. Blended interest rate. Interest rate charged to borrowers will be calculated based on the weighted average of each RE's internal rate, proportionate to their funding contribution. 3. 14.7. Safety in the civil aviation sector. Parliamentary Standing Committee released report on review of safety in the civil aviation sector. The report examines civil aviation safety environment and effectiveness of Directorate General of Civil Aviation, DGCA, amidst increasing growth of civil aviation in India. Key highlights of report. Key areas for systemic improvement, enhancing regulatory autonomy and capacity. Mitigating air traffic controller, ATCO. Fatigue and staffing deficits, strengthening surveillance and enforcement mechanisms, addressing recurring operational risks, issues, DGCA, shortage, shortfall of around 50%, and slow inflexible recruitment process through UPSC, staff, and persistent ATCO shortages and high workload, large backlog of unresolved safety findings, especially in airworthiness aerodrome standards, persistent incidents due to root cause inadequate analysis despite a dedicated occurrence review board, recommendations, time-bound plan to grant the DGCA full administrative and financial autonomy, establish recruitment specialized mechanism or body decoupling DGCA recruitment from UPSC, immediate development of fatigue risk management system, a comprehensive staffing audit and expand training capacity. A. Time-bound mechanism for deficiency closure and stronger enforcement actions, including financial penalties. Detailed root cause analysis for each incident and focused remedial programs. Developing domestic maintenance, repair and overhaul MRO capabilities, challenges, to domestic including imported infrastructural, MRO companies' high taxation parts and limitations. Promote domestic MRO sector. Rationalize and tax infrastructural incentives. Establish national aviation skill development mission, etc. Fiscal, establishing just culture and whistleblower protection. Fear of penalties may deter reporting, undermining safety oversight. Institute a comprehensive whistleblower protection framework. To read more about the aviation safety in India, refer to Article 3.3, Aviation Safety in June 2025, Monthly Current Affairs Magazine. 3. 14.8. Steel Scrap Recycling Policy, SSRP. Standing Committee on Coal, Mines and Steel recently released report on Steel Scrap Recycling Policy, SSRP. SSRP was notified by Ministry of Steel MOS in 2019 with following objectives. Promote circular economy, 6 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, redesign, remanufacture. Formal scientific collection, dismantling processing activities for end-of-life products that are sources of recyclable ferrous, non-ferrous metallic scraps, creation of mechanism for treating waste streams and residues produced from dismantling and shredding facilities, etc. Key highlights of the report. Issue highlighted. Relevant recommendations. Lack of comprehensive database on steel scrap sector. Develop a robust database of steel scrap. Create and maintain a dedicated portal with updated data on generation. Absence of designated nodal ministry for steel scrap matters. Lack of formal scrap markets. Usage, policies, programs, and benefits. Include comparisons with other countries. Ministry of Steel to be the nodal agency. It should collect, compile, update, and share all steel scrap data, state-wise, sector-wise, imports, exports. Implementing a roadmap to formalize the informal scrap sector. Organize kabadiwalas and dismantlers into cooperatives, economic and social benefits. Absence of industry status to steel scrap recycling sector. Lack of skill development and scrap certification workforce. Use of obsolete technology in scrap processing centers. Accord industry status to the scrap recycling sector to attract domestic foreign investment, generate jobs, and boost skill development. National Skill Development Corporation NSDC to launch certification. Courses on scrap handling. Train workforce and entrepreneurs for future formal sector needs. Incentivize centers, non-fiscal, to adopt modern technologies like AI-powered optical sensors, blockchain for scrap traceability, digital platforms to connect aggregators with steel mills. 4D. 4.
And with this,
Security.
we will stop
4.1.
for now. I think it has been enough for today. We will continue with security tomorrow. And I hope you understand this कि इस document को, इस format को आपको use करना है along with your own magazine. Rather than just looking at this, okay, if you can look at this, that is fine. But for me particularly, what I will do is, when I am going to revise, I am going to listen to this with my magazine on. ठीक है, ऑफलाइन मैगजीन के साथ मैं पढ़ूंगा. सो ऐसा आप भी कर सकते हो. आप ऑफलाइन मैगजीन के साथ जो उसका जो स्पीच है उसको यूज़ कर सकते हो. इट्स अ वेरी गुड कॉम्बिनेशन एंड विल डेफिनेटली हेल्प. ओके ओके, विल मीट. मैं जब भी ये वीडियो रिलीज़ होगा उसी दिन मैं वो वाला वीडियो भी रिलीज़ करूँगा जो इसके आगे वाला है, सिक्योरिटी. तो आपको दिक्कत होने की बात नहीं है. आप वाले में आप देख लेना, जब ये आएगा वीडियो तो दोनों वीडियो आ चुके होंगे. नहीं आया होगा तो 2-3 घंटे में आ जाएगा. जैसे आज डेट है 11 दिसंबर है आज, तो मैं 12 को रिलीज़ करूँगा, 12 या 13 पता नहीं. और जिस भी दिन करूँगा उस दिन दूसरा वाला भी करूँगा, मतलब सिक्योरिटी के आगे से लेकर के जो अपना मैपिंग वाला है वो पूरा रिलीज़ करूँगा. ठीक है, थैंक यू एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माय चैनल अगर आपको थोड़ा सा भी हेल्प हुई है इसके अंदर. And thank you so much. Have a good day.